Phoenix Nights. Chapter 1802. An ancient and vicissitude lingered in the air. This was an ancient land that had existed for countless years. The power of time could not erase this ruin. "We're here!" Everyone was extremely excited. Some even shed tears. They had gone through so many hardships and even lost their lives just to enter the ruins in front of them. "What are you waiting for?" Hung Xiong shouted excitedly. He was the first to jump off the cliff and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Then, they all had a crazy look in their eyes and jumped off the cliff without hesitation. They had gone through so many hardships to come to this place. Wasn't it just to enter the ruins in front of them that had sunk into the ground? The ruined palace of an ancient supreme. This was definitely an incredible ruin. There might really be treasures left behind by an ancient supreme. At this moment, in a huge pit after the heavenly tribulation, a strand of dragon chi lingered in the air. The spiritual chi in the surroundings was gradually attracted and gathered towards the old dragon in the pit. Although the old dragon had successfully passed the heavenly tribulation, it had suffered unimaginable damage. It could not recover in a short period of time. At this moment, two figures appeared in the sky above the pit. They were so silent that even the old dragon did not notice them. "The taste of roasted dragon meat might be good." Suddenly, a voice came from the sky. "Who is it?" The old flood dragon's shock was no small matter. When it was undergoing the tribulation, it did sense the aura of human cultivators in the distance. However, those human cultivators were very weak and did not pose any threat to it at all. The old dragon raised its head and saw two human cultivators standing in the air above it. This old flood dragon was shocked to the extreme and also scared to the extreme. At this moment, he was extremely weak and was no match for these two human cultivators. "This old dragon is quite impressive. He actually passed the heavenly tribulation." One of the two human cultivators, a young cultivator, looked at the old flood dragon lying in the big pit below without any expression on his face. "A pot of dragon meat soup sounds good." Next to the young cultivator was a similarly young cultivator with a hint of evil on his face. His words caused old flood dragon to tremble in fear. "You!" Elder Jiao's heart trembled. Was the other party really going to eat him? The flesh of a true dragon was a great supplement. It contained dragon essence, and even if an immortal or god ate it, it could increase their cultivation. For powerful existences, it could also increase their corporeal body's vitality. "All right, stop scaring this little dragon." When Gu Fei saw the old flood dragon, he felt a sense of familiarity. This old flood dragon was very similar to Shaoqing. Shaoqing had also slowly cultivated from a Shaoqing snake to a flood dragon. Shaoqing was undoubtedly lucky. He met Gu Fei and was taught the Dragon Clan's secret skills by Old Tortoise. His cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. By this time, he should be undergoing the dragonization heavenly tribulation. Although a flood dragon had the word dragon attached to it, it was not a true dragon at the end of the day. Moreover, it was very difficult for a flood dragon to transform into a dragon. It could be said that there was only a slim chance of survival. If he succeeded in transforming into a dragon, he would naturally become a true dragon of the 9 heavens, but if he failed, his body and soul would be destroyed. "All right, you can play with this little loach here. I'll go find Gu Zhong." He Tian was a restless person. He had no time to waste with this little dragon because Gu Zhong had already chased after the human cultivators. He had a premonition that something big was about to happen. Swoosh! He Tian directly disappeared into the void. Even the old flood dragon could not see how he left. This, Elder Jiao was shocked again. He knew that the cultivation of these two human cultivators was far stronger than he had imagined. This made him feel despair. His life was completely in the hands of the other party. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. "Little dragon, are you willing to be my disciple?" Just as the old flood dragon was feeling uneasy, Gu Fei said such a thing. "What?" Hearing this, Elder Jiao could not help but be surprised and happy. This made him feel as if he had been reborn. Did he hear wrongly? Are you not willing? Asked Gu Fei. His tone was still extremely calm, without a trace of emotion. His desire to be a disciple was actually a spur-of-the-moment idea. I'm willing. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple. Elder Jiao struggled to lie down at Gu Fei's feet and kowtowed to Gu Fei. Very good. Gu Fei nodded. This old flood dragon could successfully transform into a dragon, and did not die under the dragon tribulation. This was enough to prove that his talent was heaven-defying and qualified to be Gu Fei's disciple. This is a greeting gift from your master. Gu Fei flipped his right hand and a fist-sized crystal appeared in his hand. The crystal emitted an extremely pure dragon aura. Inside the crystal, the shadow of a dragon was faintly discernible. Dragon crystal. Elder Jiao had lived for tens of thousands of years. Of course, he knew what the crystal in Gu Fei's hand was. It was a dragon crystal that could only be born in the depths of the dragon veins. Gu Fei had once obtained a large number of dragon crystals in the land of the fallen phoenix and lost dragon. These dragon crystals contained pure dragon aura. This dragon aura was definitely a fatal temptation for the current Elder Jiao. Take it! Gu Fei threw the dragon crystal in his hand. Thank you, Master. Elder Jiao was surprised and happy. He raised his head and swallowed the dragon crystal, then began to refine the dragon aura contained in the dragon crystal. Soon, Elder Jiao's injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. After half an hour, Old Dragon could finally move. He soared into the air from the pit and arrived in front of Gu Fei. Then, he bowed to Gu Fei to acknowledge him as his master again. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound came from the front. It was a dull sound that seemed to come from the depths of the earth, causing the earth to tremble. That direction! Gu Fei was startled. The source of the voice was the direction where Erebus had disappeared. Could it be that Erebus was stirring up trouble again? Or had something happened? That's where the ancient sovereign's remnant palace is located. Old Flood Dragon transformed into a young cultivator and took on a human form. At his cultivation level, transforming into a human form was just one of the simplest divine abilities. What? Gu Fei's expression became serious. The ancient sovereign's remnant palace. Chapter 1803. Old Jiao had successfully transformed into a dragon. His body was more than 10 times stronger than before. This was a leap to become a dragon. His cultivation base and combat strength had increased exponentially. But even so, Old Jiao's cultivation base couldn't be compared to Gu Fei's, but it was still comparable to Gu Sheng's. Old Jiao's cultivation base was still unstable. It was between the peak of the 9th heaven of Immortal Emperor and Almighty. When his cultivation base stabilized, he might break through the shackles of cultivation and become an Almighty. Old Jiao recovered very quickly after being nourished by the dragon qi and the dragon crystal. However, at this moment, a loud noise was heard. A powerful wave of energy caused the heaven and earth to tremble. Both Gu Fei and Old Jiao were taken aback. In the 100,000 mountain range, there were some areas that were extremely dangerous. Even an Almighty would be in danger if he barged into these areas. It's the ruined palace of an ancient supreme. Old Jiao's expression changed. Someone had barged into the ruined palace of an ancient supreme. It was a palace that fell from the 9th heaven in the legendary era. The ruined palace of an ancient supreme. Gu Fei was shocked. Swoosh. He directly disappeared into the void. Anything that was related to ancient supreme beings was not something that ordinary people could touch. Even though the palace was in ruins, it was no exception. One should know that the down marks of a supreme were immortal. No matter how many years had passed, these down marks would still gather spiritual qi and couldn't be destroyed by time. It would be terrible if He Tian and the others touched the down marks of a supreme. 1,000 miles away from the original Crouching Dragon Ridge, an area suddenly sank and a cliff appeared among the mountains. Such a landform was definitely not formed naturally. A palace that fell from the 9 heavens is way too big. Gu Fei's figure appeared on the cliff. He couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the ruins below the cliff. There were still many buildings that hadn't collapsed yet. Even with Gu Fei's eyesight, he couldn't see the end of the ruins. Such a place must have existed for countless years. Even Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved when he sensed the vicissitudes and ancient aura coming from the ruins at the foot of the cliff. Master! At this time, the old flood dragon in the form of a young cultivator arrived. This was the second disciple that Gu Fei had accepted. This master is really unfathomable. I can't even see through him. Old Dragon was secretly shocked. Do you know the origin of these ruins? Gu Fei asked directly. The Supremes of the ancient times were extremely mysterious. No one knew how many Supremes had appeared in the distant past. This disciple only knows some legends about these ruins, said Old Dragon respectfully. In front of Gu Fei, even though he had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, he did not dare to be negligent. This was because his new master was very strong. Intuition told Old Jiao that if his master wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. It would be no different from crushing an ant. Speak! Gu Fei's words were concise and direct. Yes, it is said that these ruins appeared before the Age of Chaos. It has existed since the Age of Mythology. Old Dragon said everything he knew. It turned out that these ruins had existed for a very, very long time. The Age of Mythology was a period of time much longer than the Age of Chaos. This period of time had been lost in the long river of history. However, even today, some ruins from the Age of Mythology could still be found. This was because the Supreme's Tao patterns could not be destroyed by the power of time. Unless they were attacked by the same level of Supremes, these Tao patterns would not be destroyed. Therefore, in the cultivation world, things that were passed down from the Age of Mythology were extraordinary. Perhaps they were things that the ancient Supremes once possessed. The 100,000 mountains had existed for a very long time. When these mountains were formed, no one could say for sure. However, it was certain that the 100,000 mountains had existed since the Age of Chaos. Many secrets of the world were buried here. The Supreme's palace from the Age of Mythology fell from the sky and formed these ruins. This was a ruin from the Age of Mythology. This really shocked Gu Fei. To him, the Age of Mythology was really too long ago. It was said that it was an era where sentient lifeforms fought for supremacy. After the end of the mythological era, although there were still sentient lifeforms born in the world, these sentient lifeforms were far inferior to the sentient lifeforms born from chaos. What kind of existence was the Supremes of the Age of Mythology? Swoosh! Just as Gu Fei finished listening to Old Jiao's words, suddenly, a dazzling divine light rushed out from the gloomy ruins in front of him. It was a ray of sword light. It's the human cultivators from before. Old Jiao frowned. When he was going through the heavenly tribulation, he sensed the existence of 12 human cultivators. These human cultivators had actually entered this ancient ruins. They really don't know what's good for them. Old Jiao cursed in a low voice. He had been guarding the crouching dragon ridge for tens of thousands of years and had never dared to enter the ruins. Those human cultivators had recklessly entered the ruins. Ha ha! Suddenly, a loud laughter came from the depths of the ruins. That laughter was none other than He Tian. Roar, I'll kill you! With a roar, 2 figures appeared in Gu Fei's sight. What surprised Gu Fei was that the person running in front was He Tian. This guy was someone who would even catch a wild goose flying in the sky. Since when was he willing to be at a disadvantage? He was actually being chased by someone. The person chasing after Erebus was a cultivator with a godly build. This cultivator was on the verge of going mad. Killing intent surged from his body, and his eyes were bloodshot. He wanted nothing more than to tear Erebus apart. No way. Seeing this, Gu Fei was bewildered as well. To think that the person chasing after Mai Tian was an immortal god. This was way too strange. An immortal was chasing after a half-sage. If this was spread, no one would believe it. What was going on? Where did Guzhong go? This scene made Gu Fei confused. Old Jiao's eyes were wide open. He was shocked to find that the person running in front of him could actually avoid some dangerous places. For example, if someone leaped over the low wall would emit a beam of killing light, killing the person who leaped into the air. Old Xiao had been guarding this place for tens of thousands of years. He had seen many people die in this place. Because of this, he did not dare to enter the ruins. Chapter 1804. That's your Uncle Master He. This guy is definitely a weirdo. You'll find out in the future. Even Gu Fei blushed when he saw He Tian being chased around by an immortal. It was too embarrassing. However, he soon realized that He Tian was not afraid of the immortal level cultivator. Instead, he was playing with the immortal level cultivator. Uncle Master He Tian. Old Jiao remembered the name. Despicable guy, hurry up and give us back our things. Heng Xiong's eyes were red. They had entered the ruins of the mythological era, but they were unlucky. Not long after they entered the ruins, someone triggered the remaining restrictions and lost his life. However, when they carefully arrived in front of a collapsed stone tablet, they discovered a divine item at the base of the stone tablet. It was a jade slip embedded at the base of the stone tablet. Although countless years had passed, the jade slip was still crystal clear. There was a spiritual light flowing on it, and there seemed to be ancient words appearing on it. Everyone could sense a Taoist rhyme from the jade slip. Heng Xiong and the others were overjoyed. They thought that they had encountered an unprecedented opportunity, and that the jade slip would definitely contain something they wanted. Therefore, everyone was extremely excited and wanted to take the jade slip embedded at the base of the stone tablet. However, those who could cultivate to the immortal realm were not ordinary people. Heng Xiong and the others were even more careful in this ruins that had existed since the mythological era. No one dared to step forward rashly. However, Heng Xiong and the others could not help but step forward when faced with the divine item from the ancient Supreme Palace. However, the result made them tremble with fear. The first person who walked forward had all his blood essence devoured by an invisible force. Even his soul was extracted and devoured by the shattered stone tablets on the ground. This outcome shocked everyone. There were many bones scattered around the stone tablet. Some of the bones were as white as jade. Obviously, these were the bones of immortals. Did these people all die like this? Very soon, someone came up with an idea, which was to go out and catch some live animals, and then use these animals to explore the dangerous area at the base of the stone monument. Thus, the old man walked back. Soon, he caught many lions, tigers, jackals, and wolves in the mountains. 20 to 30 wild beasts were brought to the base of the stone tablet by the old man using the heaven and earth in his sleeve. However, a shocking scene occurred. When those ordinary beasts approached the base of the stone tablet, they were completely fine. How could this be? Seeing this situation, everyone was dumbfounded. For a moment, no one could think of the reason. Could it be that ordinary people and beasts could walk in this kind of ruins? Heng Xiong and the others couldn't wait to fly out of the 100,000 mountains and catch a mortal to try. Such a thought was very unrealistic. After all, it wasn't an easy task to make a trip to and fro the Grand Myriad Mountains. They prepared for an entire half a year, and it would take them another 3 months to arrive here after entering the Grand Myriad Mountains. After half a year, the daylilies would turn cold. Therefore, someone suggested that they should either leave, or let one of them destroy their own cultivation and become an ordinary person. Then, they could retrieve the jade scroll embedded at the base of the stone tablet. Everyone hesitated. Destroy their own cultivation? They were all rogue cultivators. To be able to cultivate to the immortal realm, they had suffered a lot. It could be said that they'd gone through a lot of hardships. It wasn't easy to obtain the immortal realm's fruit of Wei. Who would be willing to give up their immortal realm's fruit of Wei and become an ordinary person without the strength to catch a chicken? I've lived long enough, and I have hidden injuries of the great Tao. It's impossible for my cultivation to improve any further. Let me fulfill your wish. The old cultivator's final words came as a surprise to everyone. No one thought that he would be the one to stand up in the end. Old man, you. After the sloppy old man made this decision, he seemed to be relieved. His eyes flickered, and his essence, qi, and spirit were raised to their peak state. You don't have to say any more. Heng Xiong, can you promise me one thing? The sloppy old man looked at Heng Xiong. Speak. Heng Xiong's heart seemed to be blocked by something when he saw that the old man was willing to make such a sacrifice. Was this the final fate of a rogue cultivator? My grandson's physique isn't bad. After I die, I hope you can take him as a disciple for my sake. The old man couldn't let go of his grandson. All right, I promise, Heng Xiong said. I can rest easy now that you've agreed. After the old man said this, his body began to emit specks of immortal light. This was the essence of the immortal path that the old man had cultivated for countless years. He was unraveling immortality. This was a type of immortal art. Those who used this art could turn their immortal body and immortal essence into a mortal's body. It only took an hour to go from immortal to mortal, but some people couldn't even cultivate their entire lives to become an immortal. An hour later, the old man had become incredibly old. There was no longer any immortal essence coming from his body. He had turned from a high and mighty immortal into a mortal. Old man! The others couldn't help but be shocked. This kind of heroic act of sacrificing oneself to help others wasn't something that just anyone could do. There were 8 other survivors besides Heng Xiong. The old man was on the verge of death. The immortal essence had dissipated, and his immortal body had transformed. His life was almost at its end. Moreover, he still had hidden injuries of the great Tao. These injuries wouldn't disappear just because the old man used the unraveling immortal art. Conservatively speaking, the sloppy old man could only live for a few more hours. Heng Xiong was very sad. Don't worry, your grandson will definitely be fine as long as I can leave this place alive, Heng Xiong said to the old man. This was equivalent to his oath. The old man nodded and walked to the base of the stele. This time, the old man wasn't affected by the mysterious power. He walked straight to the base of the stele and was about to take out the jade scroll embedded in it. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the old man. The old man was shocked. He tried to snatch the jade scroll, but he had lost all his cultivation. There was no way he could match the speed of the person who suddenly appeared. The old man's vision blurred. He saw that the jade scroll at the base of the stele was already in the person's hand. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. Runes appeared on the shattered stone tablet, and an unfathomable power was activated, enveloping the person who had suddenly appeared. The power of time. Chapter 1805. There was a strange Tao pattern imprinted on the broken stone tablet. Although the stone tablet was smashed to the ground, the incomplete Tao pattern did not dissipate completely. A power that could deprive one of time erupted. Even someone as strong as He Tian was swept by this power. His right arm was corroded to the point that even his bones were exposed. He Tian was extremely shocked. He was a half-step saint, and his blood essence was extremely solid. However, at this moment, he could clearly sense that the blood essence in his right arm was drying up rapidly. His entire arm suddenly lost all feeling, and the jade slip that he was holding in his hand fell to the ground. However, he reached down with his left hand and caught the jade slip in time. Even He Tian would be jealous of a jade slip that was passed down from the mythological era. There were ancient words vaguely visible on the jade slip. Clearly, it was a jade slip that recorded something. The circulation of Tao rhyme. That's an incredible cultivation technique. Mai Tian broke his right arm, which had lost all signs of life, and instantly retreated. At the same time, life essence began to surge from his severed arm. His muscles and bones began to reform, and his flesh and blood rapidly grew back. In just a few breaths' time, He Tian's severed right arm was completely healed. It was as good as new. You! The old man, who had destroyed his own cultivation in order to obtain the jade slip, was so furious that he almost vomited blood when he saw the jade slip he was about to obtain being snatched away. His aged body shook violently, and he fell to the ground. Roar! Heng Xiong let out a furious roar and charged at He Tian. A dazzling swordlight rushed out of his hand and pierced through He Tian. He was fighting with all his might. His eyes were bloodshot, and he wanted nothing more than to eat He Tian alive. Seeing this, the others also made their moves. However, these people were only at the immortal god realm. They were far from being a match for He Tian. Nevertheless, He Tian did not have the intention to kill them. Swoosh! He immediately retreated. Of course, Heng Xiong and the others wouldn't let He Tian go so easily. Heng Xiong soared into the sky and chased after He Tian. Who are you? Heng Xiong gritted his teeth. In order to obtain that jade slip, they had already sacrificed a few people. The sloppy old man had even destroyed his own cultivation. Strangely enough, the stone tablet's power that could deprive a cultivator of time had no effect on the sloppy old man, who had already become immortal. Only cultivators would have their vitality stripped away by this power. Haha, you want to know who I am? You guys don't have the qualifications. He Tian laughed heartily as he rushed out of the ruins. He seemed to want to escape, but Heng Xiong chased after him with a murderous aura. They had gone through many hardships to come here and paid a heavy price. They were about to obtain a divine item left behind from the mythological era, but this divine item had been snatched away. This almost drove him crazy. Leave that thing behind, or I'll take your life. Heng Xiong roared and continued to control his sword raised to slash at He Tian. He displayed his powerful cultivation as a 9th-level immortal. Dazzling sword rays shot out in all directions, lighting up the dark sky. Haha, my life is right here. Come and take it if you can. He Tian looked at Heng Xiong mockingly. The look in his eyes showed that he didn't take this 9th-level immortal seriously at all. He was just messing with him. Arg! Heng Xiong was enraged. At this moment, he didn't care about anything else. He didn't care how strong his opponent was. He only had one thought in his mind, which was to kill this person and take back the jade slip. Uncle Master Gu seems to be going a little overboard. In another place, Gu Zhong stood on a boulder and shook his head when he saw this scene. These people were merely itinerant cultivators. He knew very well the tragic situation of itinerant cultivators. Without the protection of a sect, itinerant cultivators faced the danger of being killed by other cultivators at any time. In the cultivation world, there were many cases of people being killed and robbed. If these itinerant cultivators obtained some rare divine items, they would often be targeted by other stronger itinerant cultivators or powerful cultivators from large sections. The fate of these itinerant cultivators was already determined after being targeted by these people. Killing a rogue cultivator without any background or backing wouldn't cause any trouble, especially for some experts who came from the big sections. They wouldn't have any scruples about it. In the cultivation world, apart from some powerful itinerant cultivators, other itinerant cultivators didn't have a good life. This was also the reason why Heng Xiong and the others took the risk to enter the innumerable huge mountains. They didn't have any cultivation skill, nor did they have any refining materials. They didn't even have a good place to cultivate. The lack of cultivation resources was the biggest reason why these itinerant cultivators took the risk out of desperation. As for the disciples from large sects and forces, they didn't need to care about these things at all. All kinds of cultivation resources would be prepared for them by the sects and forces. Hey Tian, this guy! At this moment, Gu Fei and old Jiao also arrived nearby. Boss, you're here too! He Tian saw Gu Fei and hurriedly stopped. Swoosh! At the moment when He Tian stopped, a ray of sword light descended from the sky and slashed at He Tian's head, looking like it was going to split him in half. Humph! He Tian snorted coldly. He didn't even turn his head. He directly turned his back to Heng Xiong, and then waved his right hand behind him. Don't kill him, Gu Fei said. Boom! He Tian's right hand directly shattered the ray of sword light. A powerful force directly swept Heng Xiong away, smashing him into a pile of rocks. The people who came from behind Heng Xiong were all extremely shocked when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but stop. Just a wave of his hand and he broke Boss Heng Xiong's sword light. How is this possible? Is this person an immortal emperor? Or is he even more powerful than an immortal emperor? The remaining people were dumbfounded. One should know that Hengxiong was a rare sword immortal who had already reached the peak of the immortal realm. He was only one step away from becoming an immortal emperor. However, such a powerful sword immortal was completely defeated by a wave of his hand. Roar! Hengxiong's roar, which sounded like an injured beast, came from the pile of rocks 100 zhang away. He was unwilling to admit defeat, but his opponent was too powerful for him to resist. I'd like to see what's in this jade slip. Tian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these people. He directly used his divine sense to read the contents of the jade slip. However, when Tian's divine sense came into contact with the jade slip in his hand, something shocking happened. An ancient and mysterious Tao rune suddenly rushed out of the jade slip and imprinted itself on Tian's forehead. What? Chapter 1806. The jade scroll changed, and a beam of divine light rushed out from it. It was a Tao pattern of the Great Path, and it was imprinted in between my Tian's eyebrows. A divine will went straight into his Naiwen palace. Roar! Tian's face turned ferocious. He wanted to take me. There was actually a powerful divine sense hidden within the jade slip. This was a divine sense that had existed for countless years. This divine sense most likely belonged to an ancient supreme being. Tian knew that he was at the brink of life and death. If that divine will rushed into his brain, he would be in danger of being taken. You want to play this trick with me? I'm not afraid of you. Tian looked pained, but he still said such cruel words. One of the 9 secrets of the immortal path was to cultivate the power of the primordial spirit. It was the perfect way to deal with this divine will. This fellow had learned many immortal Tao secret arts from Gu Fei. Primordial sort of way. Tian struggled. The primordial spirit sitting in his brain turned into a sword of the great path. It shone with endless divine light, and rushed out of his brain. Vroom! The sword of the great path hummed, and the entire world changed color. This was a half-saint using the 9 secrets of the immortal path. The pressure of a saint was vast, shocking the world. This, Hengxiong and the others were terrified. They never thought that the person who had stolen their things would be so powerful. Half-saint. There was the word saint in it, and it had some of the characteristics of a saint. The aura of the saint filled the air. Hengxiong and the others were terrified. They knelt on the ground involuntarily, kowtowing to Tian. Rumble! The primordial sword of Wei slashed out, forcing back the divine will that had rushed out of the jade scroll. The sword of Wei could cut everything in the world. It was the bane of primordial spirits and divine will. This supreme mystic technique created by the supreme Tao ancestor had already evolved to the extreme. Once the primordial soul Tao sword was unleashed, even the divine will left behind by a supremacy had to retreat. Of course, this was also because the divine sense hidden in the jade slip was too weak. One must know that this relic was something from the mythological era. Although the will in the jade slip was not extinguished, it had become very weak after such a long time. Otherwise, even if Tian had cultivated the primordial spirit Tao sword, it would still have been seized. The sword light of the great path burst forth, illuminating the dark world. This is... Gu Fei was also very shocked. He almost attacked, but when he saw that Tian could handle it, he didn't. It was just an incomparably weak divine will. After it came out of the jade slip, if it didn't seize a cultivator's body, it would completely dissipate. This kind of spiritual will would not be able to last for long. However, it was a divine sense left behind by a supreme martial artist after all. Even though it was so weak that it was about to dissipate, it still caused a lot of trouble for Tian. Buzz! The primordial spirit Tao sword hummed, and the rhythm of the great path circulated, displaying the supreme power of the great path divine sword. It forced the divine sense to run around, but it was a bit difficult to completely destroy this divine sense. At this time, the jade slip that Tian was still holding in his hand changed again. 9 patterns of the great path flew out of the jade slip, suppressing the space between heaven and earth. It actually imprisoned Tian. What? 9 patterns of the Great Path were imprinted in the space around Haitian, triggering a great power. Even someone as powerful as a half-saint could not move. This is the 9 patterns of the Great Path condensed by an ancient supreme martial artist? At this moment, Haitian could not help but be shocked. Even Gu Fei was shocked. He never thought that the jade slip would be imprinted with the 9 patterns of an ancient supreme martial artist. 9 was the limit of numbers. Since ancient times, most of the supreme martial artists had condensed 9 supreme martial artist Dao patterns that belonged to them. Although it was only 9 supreme martial artist Dao patterns, every single one of them was all-encompassing, elaborating on the truth of heaven and earth. The 9 supreme martial artist Dao patterns were dim, as if they were heavily injured. Even so, they still suppressed Haitian. "You old ghosts, boss, save me!" Haitian was shocked, scared, because he couldn't move. Even his primordial spirit Dao sword was suppressed, locked in place in the void. This type of unmatched immortal technique actually lost the power it should have at this time. At this time, the divine sense changed. A faint and illusory figure appeared in front of Haitian, wanting to become one with Haitian. "Roar!" Gu Fei roared. At this point, he had no choice but to act. An extremely powerful wave of power rushed out from his body. "It's useless. This fleshly body is mine." The faint and illusory figure emitted a weak divine sense. This super antique from the age of legends actually still had consciousness. "Boss, save me!" Haitian's forehead shone with a godly light as his divine sense rushed out from his Naiwen palace. His voice rang out in Gu Fei's mind. "To think that after so many years, I would still be able to return to this world." The faint and illusory figure closed in on Haitian. "Arg arg!" This time, Haitian was truly afraid. One must know that if he was seized by the divine sense of a supreme martial artist, he might not even be able to reincarnate. He would completely disappear from this world. Clang! With a sword's hum, a violet gold divine sword appeared in Gu Fei's hand. Swish! Without any hesitation, he wielded the divine sword and stabbed towards the faint and illusory figure. On the tip of the sword there was a faint violet gold sword light pulsing. Humph! The figure formed from the divine sense sneered. 9 supreme Taoist patterns sealed the void. What divine weapon in this world could break through the power of the supreme Das? Crack! The violet gold divine sword pierced through the force field formed by the 9 supreme Taoist patterns. Something seemed to shatter in the void. What? The faint and illusory figure was no small matter. What kind of weapon was that? Was it a supreme divine weapon? There were also 9 Taoist patterns on the body of the violet gold divine sword. When the divine sword broke through the sealing power of the 9 Taoist patterns, Haitian's entire body relaxed. Divine snatch. With a roar, Haitian used the 9 secrets of immortal Tao. A heaven-devouring force rushed out of his Naiwen palace and swallowed the faint and illusory figure into his Naiwen palace. This guy. Seeing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but jump. Haitian was really taking a risk. He actually wanted to refine the divine sense of a supreme martial artist and obtain a portion of the memories. This was very dangerous. No one knew what the divine sense of a supreme martial artist had up his sleeve. Haitian was gambling. If he won, he would obtain a great opportunity. Chapter 1807. Bzzz. The void trembled as boundless divine light enveloped Haitian. This was the purest form of primordial spirit energy. He was using one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the godly seizing secret art. 9 divine runes of the immortal Tao appeared around him. These were immortal runes created by the peerless Tao ancestor, the bane of all primordial spirits and divine will. Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked at this scene. Haitian was truly audacious, to actually dare to devour the divine will of an ancient sovereign. "Master, will there be a problem with Junior Uncle He?" Gu Zhong walked over. "Humph, if there's a problem, then he deserves it," Gu Fei said impatiently. Haitian's actions were too risky. One must know that this was a strand of the divine will of an ancient sovereign, left behind by an existence equivalent to the peerless Tao ancestor. Although the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao were supreme immortal arts created by the peerless Tao ancestor, which of the ancient sovereigns hadn't created their own supreme god arts? Roar! Tian channeled the godly seizing secret art with all his might. The Naiwen palace in his forehead shone with a myriad of divine lights, as though a sun had appeared, illuminating the world. The 9 divine runes of the immortal Tao were imprinted into Tian's Naiwen palace, sealing the strand of divine will within. Humph, trying to seize me? I'm going to refine you. So what if it was the divine will of an ancient sovereign? It was already so weak, yet it still wanted to come out and cause trouble. Tian wouldn't let go of this opportunity. This was a great fortune. As long as he could successfully refine this strand of divine will, he would be able to obtain a portion of the sovereign's memories. At this moment, Heng Xiong and the others were already dumbfounded. Just who were these people? They were so strong and terrifying. Before them, they weren't even comparable to ants. Heng Xiong was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He had been chasing after the person who snatched the jade slip. It seemed that the other party was just toying with him. With such a powerful cultivation base, he could crush all of them with just a finger. Rumble! A powerful primordial spirit power burst out from Tian's Naiwen palace, causing the surrounding void to shake. 2 divine will powers were fighting in his Naiwen palace. 9 immortal Tao divine runes appeared on Tian's Naiwen palace. Immortal Tao runes sealed Tian's Naiwen palace, otherwise Tian's Naiwen palace would have been destroyed. Tian's expression was extremely solemn. This was the most dangerous battle. If he lost, he might disappear from this world forever. Similarly, if Tian were to refine that strand of sovereign spirit will, it would also disappear completely. Tian sat down cross-legged. The jade scroll in his hand was emitting light, providing energy to the supreme divine will in his Naiwen palace. This was a form of threat. Shua! Gu Fei moved. Wielding the violet gold god sword, he flicked the jade scroll in Tian's hand away and grabbed it in his hand. If Heng Xiong and the others had the jade scroll, the supreme divine will in the jade scroll would have succeeded. But unfortunately, Tian was not an immortal, but a powerful half-saint. It was not an easy task to refine a half-saint because the supreme divine will was simply too weak. This thing. Gu Fei used his energy to suppress the jade scroll, cutting off the connection between the jade scroll and the supreme divine will. This way, the pressure on Tian was greatly reduced. I am the supreme ruler of the 9 heavens and 10 earths. When my true body returns, all of you shall die. From Tian's Naiwen palace, a weak spiritual will rippled out. The supreme divine will could not hold on any longer, and was about to be refined by Tian. Stop bragging. I'll kill you first. Tian did not dare to be slow. Countless array runes appeared on his body and were imprinted into his Naiwen palace. He used his trump card. At this moment, Gu Fei released his spiritual will into the jade scroll. This is... Gu Fei was extremely shocked because there was really something else in the jade scroll. It was 9 Tao runes. These 9 Tao runes were already very weak and were on the verge of collapsing. What happened back then? Even the 9 supreme Tao runes of the ancient supreme were attacked, and were almost destroyed by some kind of power. These 9 Tao runes were very useful for Gu Fei and Tian, who had already taken the crucial step of becoming a sage. They could observe the complete Tao of others to comprehend their own Tao. One must know that those who could become an extreme sovereign were people who had comprehended their own complete Tao. A flawless Tao could even suppress the heavenly Tao. However, the Tao comprehended by a sage was incomplete. Achieving Tao was only stepping onto the path of an extreme sovereign. Of course, the vast majority of people would not be able to become an extreme supreme being. The majority of them would fail on this path, because comprehending a complete great Tao was simply too difficult. Die! Tian exerted his strength. His Naiwen palace seemed to be splitting the sky and earth apart. Even with the 9 Tao runes suppressing it, cracks still appeared and chaotic aura seeped out from the cracks. Endless divine light gathered in Tian's Naiwen palace. He had successfully refined the will of the ancient supreme. Ha ha! He Tian laughed. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Even though it was just a strand of divine will that was about to collapse, it still gave him a great impact. If not for the 9 secrets of immortal Tao, he would have been in real danger. This old man is actually a being born from chaos. He was indeed invincible in the past. Mahakala spoke these words. This was the most primitive type of sentient life form, possessing great divine abilities the moment they were born. Their innate talents were so good that it wasn't something that Hotian lifeforms could compare to. This, Gu Fei was shocked. An extreme sovereign before the Age of Legends. The Age of Legends was long enough. To think that the owner of the will in the Jade Scroll was even older than the Age of Legends. You guys! At this moment, Heng Xiong and the others walked over unwillingly. It's useless even if I give it to you. You'll end up getting yourself killed instead. Gu Fei glanced at Heng Xiong and said. The cultivation bases of these people were too low. There was no way they could come into contact with the Tao of an extreme sovereign. Instead, they would attract the attention of powerful beings and bring disaster upon themselves. Heng Xiong and the others were able to cultivate to the immortal realm as itinerant cultivators. Their experiences were definitely not something disciples of big sects could compare to. Please accept us as your disciples. Heng Xiong suddenly knelt down in front of Gu Fei. This person was so strong. If they could obtain his protection, they would not have to be bullied by other cultivators. Please accept us as your disciples. The people behind Heng Xiong all knelt down. Even the sloppy old man who was about to reach the end of his lifespan did the same. The sloppy old man could not hold on any longer. He had severed his own cultivation base just to obtain that jade scroll. He was so old that he was about to die. Gu Zhong had seen everything from start to end. This old man was worthy of respect. Chapter 1808. Master this. Gu Zhong looked at Gu Fei. It was indeed not easy for these people to cultivate to the immortal realm as independent cultivators. Gu Zhong felt the same way. Before he met his master, Gu Fei, the Gu family in the land of the sorcerer was often bullied. Even a clan was like this, let alone those lone rogue cultivators. Heng Xiong and the others knelt on the ground. Gu Fei couldn't help but be tempted by this scene. However, he had just accepted old Jiao as his disciple, and these people in front of him didn't have enough aptitude to become his disciples. Disciples could not be casually accepted. It also depended on one's aptitude. Of course, aptitude was only one aspect, but one's temperament determined everything. Deal with these people as you see fit, Gu Fei said to Gu Zhong. These people did not practice martial arts, so they could not be his disciples. The reason why he accepted old Jiao was because he thought of Shaoqing in the heaven realm. I wonder how Shaoqing and the others are doing. Gu Fei looked up at the sky and muttered to himself. His opponents in the heaven realm were very powerful. Those people could threaten Shaoqing and the others. However, the old turtle was also in the heaven realm. With his identity as the son of the Tai Huang Emperor, Shaoqing and the others had the old turtle's protection. They did not need to fear anyone. After all, Old Tortoise had a grand sovereign seal in his possession. Yes. Gu Zhong nodded and replied. Then, he pointed a finger and poured a strand of life essence into the dying old man's body, helping him extend his lifespan. An internal injury of the great Tao. Gu Zhong was shocked. His spiritual force scanned the old man's body and found that there was a hidden injury of the great Tao in the old man's body. This is the injury left behind by the heavenly tribulation when I underwent the heavenly tribulation back then. I have never been able to heal it. The old man's voice rang out as he said those words. He was injured by the heavenly tribulation, yet he survived. Even Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved when he heard this. This old man had definitely experienced things that others couldn't imagine, yet he was still alive. This old man's will to live was too strong for him to be able to successfully overcome the tribulation after recovering from his great Tao injury. Let's go in and take a look first. Do as you see fit. After Gu Fei finished speaking, he led old Jiao, He Tian, and the others into the depths of the ancient ruins. Since they were already here, it would be a pity not to explore this place. Master doesn't accept disciples easily. If you're willing, you can follow me. Gu Zhong glanced at the 9 people kneeling before him and said. These 9 people were all at the immortal realm. The Gu family of the Sorcerer Land needed people like this. The Gu family of the Sorcerer Land only had Gu Zhong. The other members of the Gu family did not have much success. Only a few of them managed to cultivate the immortal god Dao fruit with Gu Zhong's help. Such a Gu family was too weak in this great world. Now that Gu Fei had become a half-saint, no one dared to rashly offend the Gu clan. However, the Gu clan and Gu Fei weren't of the same clan after all. Gu Fei was not an expert from the Gu clan. His relationship with the Gu clan was only that he had accepted Gu Zhong as his disciple. If the Gu family of the Sorcerer Land wanted to become truly powerful, they still needed to develop and become stronger on their own. Gu Zhong's acceptance of these 9 people had undoubtedly injected a powerful force into the Gu clan. Greetings, Master. Heng Xiong and the others felt blessed. They knelt before Gu Zhong again and paid their respects to him. Very good. Gu Zhong nodded. In fact, he valued Heng Xiong and the old man the most. In his opinion, the injuries of the great Tao were not difficult to heal. This old man had already severed his cultivation. He could take this old man as his disciple and teach him the path of martial arts. The old man's life was saved, but his physical body was still very weak. It was even worse than a mortal's. Gu Zhong took out a young king medicine and gave it to the sloppy old man. The sloppy old man's hands trembled as he took the young king medicine excitedly. The others were incomparably envious. It was the young king medicine. Just a whiff of its medicinal aura was enough to make one feel 100 times more spirited. If one were to consume this young king medicine, perhaps it could directly increase the lifespan of the elderly by 100 years. If a cultivator consumed this young king medicine, his cultivation would definitely improve. A miraculous medicine that could be called a young king medicine was not an ordinary miraculous medicine. Only miraculous medicines that were more than 10,000 years old could be called a young king medicine. A 10,000-year-old miraculous medicine was definitely a rare miraculous medicine in the human world. All of you go out and wait for me outside. Gu Zhong really did not have time to settle down these 9 newly accepted disciples. The ruins of the mythological era were full of danger. If only one of them followed him, his life might be in danger. Yes, Master. Heng Xiong and the others also knew that they could not help Gu Zhong with their cultivation. They would only be a burden if they stayed. They could only leave. They bowed to Gu Zhong and retreated in the direction they came from. Gu Zhong did not casually accept these 9 disciples. Through his observation, he found that these 9 people were not evil or evil people. Especially Heng Xiong and the slovenly old man, both of them were righteous people that kept their promises. Since they were able to become friends with these 2 people and explore the grand myriad mountains with them, the character of the others naturally wouldn't be too bad. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. A person's character could often be seen from the friends around him. When he saw the 9 disciples carefully making their way out, Gu Zhong also chased in the direction that Gu Fei and the others had disappeared. He Tian left a mark along the way. Gu Zhong quickly caught up to Gu Fei and the others. Everything is done? Gu Fei asked. It's done, Gu Zhong replied. Haha, boss, are you really planning to establish a sect and become the founder? He Tian laughed heartily. With Gu Fei's current cultivation base, he was fully qualified to establish a sect, recruit disciples, and become the founder of a sect. I don't have such thoughts. Let's leave it to the next generation, Gu Fei said. He tacitly agreed with Gu Zhong's actions. He would not be the founder, and it was even more impossible for him to accept disciples. If he had these burdens, it would be difficult for him to reach the peak of his life. Of course, in the depths of Gu Fei's heart, he still hoped to rebuild the Taishan sect. However, this would only be possible if he found the missing disciples of the Taishan sect. He wondered how many of his fellow disciples had been able to escape the calamity that had befallen them. The Dongfang clan and the Beitang clan. Chapter 1809. Gu Fei's sudden display of murderous intent caused the people around him to tremble in fear, especially the old dragon. His mind was shaken as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Master! The old dragon's voice began to tremble. Yes. Gu Fei suddenly came to a realization and couldn't help but sigh. There was still an obsession in his heart that had inadvertently given birth to a murderous intent. Only by settling the grudges with the Dongfang and Beitang clans could the obsession in his heart be dispelled. The grudge between him and the Zhao clan had come to an end, but no one could guarantee that the Zhao clan wouldn't come looking for him again. Gu Fei wasn't afraid of trouble, and he wouldn't let anyone bully him, not even the clan of the ancients. Boss, what are you doing? Could it be that you sense danger? He Tian was also startled by Gu Fei. Gu Fei had actually released a murderous intent. This made him nervous, thinking that something bad was about to happen. It's nothing. Gu Fei retracted his aura, and the murderous intent immediately disappeared. At this time, everyone secretly let out a sigh of relief. The group continued forward. Erebus had a deep understanding of the Tao of spell formations. Naturally, he would be the one to take the lead in this mythological era's ruins. As they went deeper, everyone noticed that the sky above their heads was getting darker. This was very unusual. It was daytime, but it was hard to see the sun in the sky. There's a law of Tao that has enveloped the entire ruin, Gu Fei said. This ruin from the Age of Legends seemed to have formed a world of its own, and the law of heaven and earth here had been changed. The ruined palace of an ancient sovereign is indeed extraordinary. He Tian couldn't help but be amazed. He had refined the will of the sovereign and learned many things. The formation of this ruin could be traced back to the Age of Legends. That was a paragon that had risen during the mythological era. For some unknown reason, this paragon had actually fought with a paragon from before the mythological era. That battle caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend apart. It practically destroyed an entire era. No one knew the final result, but a palace fell from the sky to the mortal world, forming this incomparably huge ruin. A battle between supreme beings was incomparably terrifying to begin with. Even the palaces of supreme beings were shattered, falling from the sky. One could see just how terrifying that battle was back then. As Gu Fei and the others walked through the ruins, they had no choice but to be extremely careful. This was because there were still the indestructible Tao laws left behind by the ancient supremes. In the ruins, there were basically no buildings that were completely preserved. The buildings that could stand tall in the ruins were all buildings that were branded with supreme Tao patterns. Encountering such a place, they could only take a detour. How could this be? Suddenly, He Tian stopped. A look of disbelief appeared on his face. He seemed to have sensed an impossible situation. What's wrong? Gu Fei and the others hurriedly asked. This place seems to be a cage. He Tian raised his head and looked up into the sky. When he was high up in the sky, he lowered his head and observed carefully. His expression turned even more solemn. Everyone rose into the sky as well and came to He Tian's side. Following He Tian's gaze, everyone looked down. What they saw gave them a huge shock. The collapsed buildings on the ground were all in the shape of squares. Under the messy rocks, Tao patterns could be vaguely seen on the ground. The center of each square building was branded with a Tao pattern. These were incomparably ancient Tao patterns, as though there was something sealed beneath the ruins. It's really a cage. Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved. This was way too inconceivable. For a cage to fall from the sky, it couldn't be right. Could it be that some powerful living being was sealed here by the ancient supremes? Although the various square buildings had collapsed, the foundations were still there. There were hundreds and thousands of such buildings. If it was really as they guessed, it was too terrifying. Thousands of powerful living beings were actually sealed by the ancient supremes. Was this possible? Existences that were worthy of being sealed by the ancient supremes were probably all extremely powerful. Let's go down and take a look. Gu Fei directly flew down from the sky and came to the front of a square building. This building had already collapsed, but the foundation and the ground were incomparably sturdy. They weren't damaged at all. The others also flew down from the sky. Everyone worked together to clean up the collapsed rocks and debris, revealing the ceiling Dao pattern below. "This is the most ancient ceiling Dao pattern," He Tian said after carefully inspecting it. A Dao pattern before the mythological era. Everyone was shocked. Before the mythological era, there was really an era that had been annihilated in the passage of time. This was too shocking. The current world of cultivation believed that the mythological era was the first recorded era in the world. It was much older than the ancient desolate era. After the mythological era was destroyed, countless years passed before the ancient desolate era was formed. The ancient desolate era had existed for billions of years, but in the end, it still ended. From the destruction of the ancient desolate era to the present day, it was believed that the world had experienced the third reincarnation, the third era. And now, it was enough to prove that before the mythological era, there was an ancient era. Moreover, during that era, the Supremes had already appeared in the world. This relic was the palace of the Supremes before the mythological era. The ancient seal, even after 3 long eras, the power of the seals still existed. This caused everyone to be shocked to the extreme. After such a long period of time, only the immortal Supreme's items could not be destroyed by the power of time. Only the immortal Supreme's items could exist forever. Only the immortal Supreme's items could not be destroyed by the power of time. Of course, this was also relative. If someone at the same level made a move, even the items left behind by the Supremes would be completely destroyed. "Let's open it." Gu Fei decided to open the seal. After so many years, even though the power of the seal had not disappeared, it had become very weak. "Let me borrow the divine sword." He Tian was very straightforward. He was also very curious. Were there really living beings from before the mythological era sealed under the seal? After so much time had passed, were these living beings still alive? Soon, He Tian used the power of the purple gold divine sword to break the seal. Countless cracks appeared under everyone's feet. Everyone rose into the air and stared nervously at the ground below. Kacha, the ground was cracking. Cracks quickly covered the entire ground. The power of the seal was quickly disappearing. It was about to disappear completely. Bang! In front of everyone's eyes, the ground below collapsed, revealing a pitch-black hole. A cloud of smoke and dust rushed up from this black hole. This is... Everyone was on high alert. It should be known that if there really were powerful living beings from before the mythological era rushing out, everyone would be in danger. "There's no aura of life." Everyone then breathed a sigh of relief. There was no aura of life coming from the black hole below. This meant that even if there was a living being from before the mythological era sealed in the black hole, that living being was now dead. Just as everyone had guessed, the black hole was hundreds of feet deep. There was a huge skeleton inside. This was the skeleton of a strange beast that no one had ever seen before. A living being from before the mythological era. Even though there was only a skeleton left, everyone could feel the ferocity and terror of this strange beast. It was hard to imagine how fierce and powerful this living being was when it was still alive. No living being can live in such a state for so long. Everyone was relieved. No matter how powerful a living being was, in this sealed land, it would exhaust its essence chi. In the end, it would die. Next, everyone opened 7 or 8 seals in a row. Some of the cages were empty, without any living being sealed inside. Even if there were living beings sealed in some cages, those living beings had already become bones or dried corpses. Crossing 3 eras. Under the seal, there was probably no living being that could live for so long. One should know that even an honorable being would not be able to live for so long if he was sealed. These cages were not as simple as sealing grounds. Inside the cages, there were also array patterns that could absorb spirit chi. In other words, the creatures inside the cages could not absorb spirit chi from the outside world. Instead, their own spirit chi was constantly being consumed by the cages. Crossing 3 eras, Even an honorable being would probably be exhausted to death if he was sealed in this place. These guys are all poor. There's nothing left behind. Haitian tried his best to open the seals. He wanted to see if there were any treasures inside. Unfortunately, these living beings were sealed in here. How could there be any treasures on them? Of course, if the essence chi of these living beings had not been completely consumed, the bodies of these living beings could be considered as decent treasures. Aura of life. How is this possible? Just as Haitian broke open the 9th seal, an extremely weak aura of life seeped out from the bottom of the cracked seal. What? Even Haitian himself was shocked. Aura of life. That's right. This is the aura of life. The unknown living being in the seal is still alive. Everyone was extremely shocked. This was definitely a miracle. What kind of living being could survive after being sealed for so long? This sealed land was not some paradise or spiritual land that was filled with spirit chi. What is this? Chapter 1810. The ruins left behind from the mythological era turned out to be a prison. Such an outcome was inconceivable to everyone. Legend had it that this was formed by the fall of an ancient sovereign's palace from the 9th heaven. If this was really a prison built by an ancient sovereign, then the creature that was imprisoned in this prison would definitely have a great background. After all, a creature that was worthy of being sealed by an ancient sovereign would definitely not be an ordinary existence. Gu Fei and the others were opening these incomparably ancient prisons. The sealing power of these prisons was already very weak, but it still took them a lot of effort to break these prisons. In theory, there should be no life in these ancient prisons that spanned 3 eras. After being sealed for such a long period of time, even an ancient sovereign would be exhausted to death. However, when the 9th seal was opened, an extremely weak breath of life came out of the prison. Although this breath of life was extremely weak and almost negligible, in front of a powerhouse like Gu Fei, the appearance of this breath of life shocked them to the extreme. How is this possible? Everyone was shocked to the extreme, especially the old flood dragon. He knew some of the origins of these ancient ruins. How could there be life in such an ancient ruin? Old Jiao had been guarding outside these ruins for tens of thousands of years. No one knew these ruins better than him. Prior to this, only that human cultivator had entered this ancient ruin once 10,000 years ago. At that time, he was only a demonic cultivator who had just awakened his spiritual wisdom. Of course, that human cultivator was not necessarily stronger than Old Jiao. However, the magic weapon in his hand made Old Jiao very afraid, so he did not dare to act rashly. In the end, that human cultivator seemed to have encountered some kind of opportunity in these ruins and left happily. Since then, no one from the human clan or any other race had discovered these ruins. However, Old Jiao had been guarding outside these ruins for tens of thousands of years. Of course, Old Jiao had entered these ruins before, but he did not dare to go deep. He only dared to wander around the periphery. It was also because of Old Jiao's cautiousness that he was able to survive until now and successfully become a dragon. If he had entered the depths of these ruins, he would probably have died inside. Be careful, Haitian reminded everyone. A creature that had been sealed for 3 eras still didn't die. Anyone would be moved. One had to understand that this was definitely a miracle. Gotcha. After the seal was broken, the ground quickly cracked and then collapsed. Everyone nervously stared at the pitch-black hole below. Gu Zhong's blood and qi surged as martial qi revolved around him. He looked like a reincarnated ancient god of war, giving off a strong sense of oppression. An old flood dragon sensed the ocean-like energy fluctuations coming from his senior brother. He couldn't help but change his expression. This was definitely an almighty level of cultivation. On the other hand, his own cultivation base had yet to be fully consolidated. He was still hovering between the 9th heaven of Immortal Emperor and the Almighty. An almost transparent beam of sword light shot out from Haitian's body. It was a formless divine sword, and a wisp of saintly might emanated from the divine sword, causing people's hearts to palpitate. Compared to the nervous expressions of Haitian and the others, Gu Fei was still very calm. There wasn't any powerful qi coming from his body. He gave off an unfathomable feeling. The seal had been broken, but nothing rushed out from the pitch-black prison below. The surroundings were so quiet that even the breathing of the people around could be heard. But no one dared to be careless. One should know that the era before the mythological era was too long ago. The things of that era had basically been annihilated in that long period of time. The smoke and dust gradually dispersed. Then, the scene of the dungeon gradually appeared in front of everyone. This is... A huge tortoise shell appeared in front of everyone. An old tortoise. Gu Fei and the others were dumbfounded. This was an ancient creature from before the mythological era. This was a tortoise shell the size of a house. This tortoise shell had no aura of life. The aura of life came from within the tortoise shell. This was a fleshly body. The flesh and bones had already turned to dust, but the tortoise shell could not. "Little nephew, go down and take a look." He Tian glanced at old Jiao and said. "What?" Old Jiao was shocked. But then he remembered that he seemed to be the person with the lowest seniority among the people present. It seemed like he could only do this kind of rough work. "Go, I will protect you. I guarantee that you won't die," He Tian said. Old Jiao was very unwilling, but he couldn't refuse. The qi of life inside the tortoise shell made Gu Fei and the others feel a little uneasy. But the qi of life was very weak and seemed to be of no threat to anyone. Old Jiao jumped down and carried the huge tortoise shell up. Bang! The tortoise shell was placed on the ground beside the prison. The heavy tortoise shell was like a mountain, and the ground shook when it hit. On the shell that was the size of a house, there were thick lines intertwined. Upon closer inspection, these lines seemed to be naturally formed. They were natural Tao patterns. Creatures before the mythological era are indeed extraordinary. He Tian couldn't help but sigh. Innate Tao patterns were something that only sentient lifeforms could possess. Ordinary lifeforms definitely wouldn't possess such Tao patterns. Even the old tortoise, the son of the Tai Huang dynasty, didn't have such natural Tao patterns. Natural Tao patterns? Could it be that this is a chaotic connate creature that was born from chaos? Gu Fei was also very shocked. The connate Tao patterns on the tortoise shell seemed to still be effective. There was an invisible force that shrouded the huge tortoise shell. The inside of the ancient prison was engraved with formation patterns that could devour essence qi. But this tortoise shell was a little special. Maybe it could counteract the devouring power in the prison. There seemed to be something inside the tortoise shell. At this moment, everyone was shocked. They were sure that it was a false alarm. The tortoise shell and the thing inside it didn't pose any threat to them. Because the qi of life inside the tortoise shell was too weak. It wasn't even as strong as the qi of life on an ordinary person. What's going on? He Tian carefully examined the tortoise shell. Apart from the natural Tao patterns on the shell, there was nothing special about it. This giant tortoise must have been very powerful when it was alive. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been sealed in the prison by an ancient supreme being. However, no matter how powerful an existence was, it would still fall. However, there was still a qi of life coming from inside the tortoise shell. No one knew if this giant tortoise was already dead or if it wasn't completely dead yet. It should be known that the more powerful an existence was, the harder it was to die. Little nephew, it's better for you to do it. He Tian looked at old Jiao again. Old Jiao had no choice but to walk forward and directly enter the huge tortoise shell that was as big as a house. Gu Fei and the others all stared at old Jiao. If there were any accidents, they would act immediately and rescue old Jiao. Gu Fei even took out the purple gold divine sword. This divine sword was a supreme divine sword. Not to mention a tortoise shell with natural Tao patterns, even immortal divine iron could be split in half by this sword. It was still a false alarm. Very quickly, old Jiao walked out of the tortoise shell with an egg in his hand. It can't be. Seeing that old Jiao actually came out with an egg in his hand, Gu Fei and the others were stunned once again. There were too many surprises today. This wasn't an ordinary egg, but a bone egg. The shell of the egg was made of dense bones, and these bones were covered with natural runes. These runes were exactly the same as the natural runes on the tortoise shell. This old tortoise has undergone nirvana. Tian stared at the bone egg for a full hour before he said this. Everyone was shocked. This giant tortoise had actually undergone nirvana. They had heard of phoenixes undergoing nirvana rebirth, but they had never heard of a tortoise undergoing nirvana. Can tortoises undergo nirvana too? Gu Zhong voiced out the doubts in his heart. This was beyond the scope of everyone's understanding. Only Tian, who had reincarnated countless times, knew some of the secrets of heaven and earth. In theory, any powerful existence can undergo nirvana rebirth. However, the price to pay is too high. Unless it is a life and death situation, no one is willing to take this path, Tian said. The price to pay for nirvana was too high. This was a self-destruction, cutting off one's cultivation and turning oneself into the most primitive state. This was to beat oneself back to the original state. Only those with great willpower would be able to harden their hearts and sever most of their cultivation at the juncture of life and death, thus preserving the most primordial brand of life. Of course, during the process of nirvana, a part of one's power would be sealed in one's own primitive life. After rebirth, through cultivation, this part of the power would be stimulated. This giant tortoise was also forced into a dead end. Otherwise, it wouldn't have used this method to save its life. It used the natural Tao patterns on the tortoise shell to resist the devouring power in the prison. Then, it used a secret technique to undergo nirvana and turned into a bone egg. Before this giant tortoise was born, it was also a bone egg. A faint aura of life was emitted from this bone egg. The aura of life in the bone egg was almost gone. If Gu Fei and the others hadn't broken the seal, this bone egg would have become a dead egg in another few hundred or 1,000 years. This guy is really lucky. After knowing the cause and effect, everyone couldn't help but be moved. This was a creature from the most ancient era before the mythological era. It had crossed 3 eras and finally turned into an egg. And this egg was obtained by Gu Fei. It could be said that this giant tortoise was not fated to die. Chapter 1811. No one would have thought that a black turtle born from chaos, which had been sealed for countless years, would survive tenaciously through nirvana. It had spanned 3 eras. What a long period of time. Even those supreme beings might not be able to exist for that long. Although supreme beings were said to be extremely powerful, it did not mean that supreme beings would not die. The creatures before the mythological era were still alive. No one would believe it even if it was said out, because it was too incredible. One must know that even those ancient supreme beings had disappeared. Some supreme beings might even have fallen. However, turtles originally had a much longer lifespan than ordinary creatures. It was probably the natural longevity of this black turtle that allowed it to survive for such a long period of time. The bone egg was only 1 foot high. The lines on it were natural Tao patterns. This Tao pattern could seal the bone egg and prevent the loss of life essence. Self-nirvana and seal. This big turtle's means are indeed heaven-defying. Tian was extremely shocked. This black turtle did not die. As long as the bone egg was provided with a steady stream of spiritual energy, this black turtle would break out of the egg and be reborn in the world. Will there be any future troubles? Gu Fei did not want to make the black tortoise reincarnate. The black tortoise's cultivation would backfire on him after it was successful. That was not a good thing. The person who would do such a thing was absolutely stupid to the extreme. It shouldn't be. Even if this black turtle can really recover its memory, it may not be your opponent. Tian thought for a moment and said such words. The reborn black turtle's cultivation would not be too strong. It was just a newborn creature. Even if this creature's talent and physique reached a heaven-defying level, it was impossible for it to threaten the existence of the half-sage level as soon as it was born. In the end, Gu Fei put away the bone egg. This bone egg was formed after a supreme existence underwent nirvana. Such an existence's talent and physique were definitely at the monstrous level. In this world, It seemed that only Gu Fei could make this bone egg hatch quickly because only Gu Fei could provide this bone egg with a steady stream of spiritual energy. This kind of creature born naturally had a different talent and physique from ordinary creatures. It required a large amount of spiritual energy to gradually grow such a creature. When Gu Fei was in the heaven realm, he cut out a divine egg from the body of a stone man. After so many years, the divine egg still did not hatch. The divine egg was kept in the depths of the mountain and river cauldron by Gu Fei and nourished by the fire phoenix's essence. Even so, there was still no sign of the life in the divine egg being born. The divine egg was kept in the depths of the mountain and river cauldron by Gu Fei and nourished by the fire phoenix's essence. He had already guessed the origin of this divine egg. This divine egg was probably the legendary phoenix egg. Now, he had obtained another bone egg. Good things come in pairs. The bone egg was also kept in the mountain and river cauldron by Gu Fei and thrown into the place where the true dragon's divine pearl was. Soon, the bone egg gradually absorbed the essence of the true dragon's divine pearl. The fire phoenix's divine pearl and the true dragon's divine pearl were rare spiritual objects in this world. They had not appeared even once in millions of years. Gu Fei had only obtained these divine objects by chance in the land of the fallen phoenix and lost dragon. The mountain and river cauldron was a world of its own, and contained many good things that Gu Fei had obtained. In the deepest part of the mountain and river cauldron, the physical body and primordial spirit of the primordial demon were suppressed. This was one of Gu Fei's trump cards. No one knew what would happen once the primordial demon's primordial spirit and physical body merged. "Boss, do we continue?" The huge turtle shell was put away by He Tian. This was not an ordinary turtle shell. It was probably not inferior to the stone turtle shell of the old tortoise. This was a divine object with natural Tao patterns. It had not completely lost its divinity. After sacrificial refining, it could definitely be refined into an amazing divine object. Continue. Gu Fei did not think too much about it. After all, there were not many creatures like this black turtle in the world. He did not believe that there was an existence more abnormal than this black turtle. Therefore, He Tian continued and opened all the remaining cages. There were a total of 108 cages. The remaining cages were either empty, or the living beings inside had died countless years ago. Some of their corpses had even completely decayed. There were no more miracles. No one had truly explored the ruins of the mythological era. This sealed place was only a small part of the ruins. As for what was in the depths of the ruins, Gu Fei and the others really did not know. When Gu Fei and the others left the sealed place and headed for the depths of the ruins, they encountered a lot of trouble. In the end, they found that there was a chaotic zone in the depths of the ruins. This is... Everyone was extremely shocked. Rumble! Muffled thunder-like sounds came from the chaotic zone in front of them. Chaotic chi rose as if a supreme existence was splitting heaven and earth. No one could detect what was in the chaotic zone because it was an extremely chaotic place. Even those who had cultivated the divine eyes could not see through it. Is it a sealed primal chaos or an entrance to the primal chaos void? He Tian muttered to himself. He could not see through the chaotic zone that had always existed because it was impossible for chaotic rifts to exist in the world for a long time. The laws of heaven and earth could repair the broken void. Unless the entire world was broken, the crack between heaven and earth could not exist forever. Obviously, there was a force that made it difficult for this chaotic void to repair. It prevented the laws of heaven and earth from maintaining this chaotic state. Little nephew! He Tian looked at old Jiao again. Uncle He, please spare me. Old Jiao was really scared this time. Before He Tian finished speaking, he shouted. This time, he would not go up even if he was beaten to death. That was the chaotic void. Even a real powerful person might not be able to walk in the chaotic void. Forget it. This time, I will do it myself, Gu Fei said. If he allowed old Jiao to go up this time, the disciple he had just accepted would probably die here. Only semi-sage experts could travel in the primal chaos void. The extremely chaotic zone could cause people to get lost in it. All of their senses would be rendered useless, and even their divine senses would find it hard to penetrate the chaos. Only existences above the half-saint realm could rely on their tyrannical cultivation to enter the chaos void. Master, this. Guzhong wanted to enter the chaotic void on behalf of his master. He took a step forward. However, he was stopped by Gu Fei. Guzhong was already a powerful warrior, and his martial body was incomparably tyrannical. He was not afraid of the chaotic void. However, Guzhong's cultivation was still not enough. If he got lost in the chaotic void, he would probably never be able to come out. Rays of chaotic divine light flashed in the chaotic void from time to time. There was a strong fluctuation coming from it. No one dared to take it lightly. Gu Fei walked forward and directly entered the chaotic zone. This is... The moment Gu Fei entered the chaotic zone, his expression changed. How could this be? He clearly felt an aura that should not have appeared. Impossible! Gu Fei was extremely shocked. This aura should not have appeared. It was beyond his understanding. This chaotic void was strange. Could it be a passage? The rays of chaotic divine light didn't appear randomly. There was a pattern to it. The divine light in the chaotic void flashed from top to bottom. This kind of divine light pointed out the direction of the chaotic void. Above, Gu Fei directly rushed towards the place where the primal divine light had landed. The heavy primal chi was blocked by the chi aura on his body, making it difficult for him to get close. Boss is moving quickly. He Tian could sense Gu Fei's existence. This was also the reason why Gu Fei would not get lost in the chaotic void. He had He Tian's Dao pattern on his body. Before entering the chaotic void, He Tian left a Dao pattern on Gu Fei's body. This way, Gu Fei could also sense He Tian's existence. How is this possible? He Tian's face revealed an expression of disbelief. He also sensed something strange. The Dao pattern he left on Gu Fei's body had a subtle connection with him. Rumble! In the chaotic void, Gu Fei was rushing upwards rapidly. The heavy chaotic chi could collapse mountains and rivers, but it had little effect on Gu Fei. He didn't know how far he had traveled in the chaotic void. However, he could feel that the aura coming from the chaotic divine light was getting stronger and stronger. Could this really be a chaotic passageway? Gu Fei was really moved. If his guess was right, this was definitely something that could make all the cultivators in the human world go crazy. No one would have thought that there would be such a chaotic passageway between the human world and that place. Gu Fei wanted to prove his guess. However, he realized that there was a powerful force blocking his way forward. The chaotic energy was getting stronger and stronger. Sure enough, it won't be easy. Gu Fei knew that he wouldn't be able to smoothly move towards that place without any obstruction. Boom! Suddenly, a divine light appeared in front of him. A huge mountain appeared in the chaotic passageway. Dust was floating in the chaotic divine light. A familiar aura was emitted from the mountain. What? When Gu Fei approached the mountain, he was shocked to the extreme. This mountain was the sacred mountain that had flown out of his inner world. This sacred mountain was the ancestral land of the god race in the Hell Path. According to legend, the supreme Tao ancestor had once preached on the sacred mountain for 1,000 years. He passed down the supreme immortal Tao and founded the immortal Tao. Why is this sacred mountain here? Chapter 1812. A divine mountain blocked his path, and a vast and powerful aura descended from the divine mountain, causing Gu Fei to be incomparably shocked. He had no choice but to stop. This divine mountain was the ancestral mountain that flew out from his inner world. How is this possible? Back then, this divine mountain broke through the void and rushed into the depths of the primal chaos. Gu Fei vaguely saw a cold corpse in the primal chaos resonating with the divine mountain and taking it away. Then, that corpse seemed to have obtained some sort of rebirth power and came back to life. It even fought against the skeleton that crawled out from the grave of the great ominous being. The divine mountain blocked the path ahead. This made Gu Fei feel uneasy. That mysterious person was extremely powerful. Even as a half-saint, he was most likely not his match. Did the divine race meet with misfortune? Gu Fei couldn't sense any aura from the divine mountain above. It was as if the divine race had truly disappeared. No one knew what happened to them. This was the divine mountain where the Tao ancestor once preached, the ancestral land of the immortal Tao. The immortal aura was vast and mighty, causing Gu Fei to feel a great pressure. With the divine mountain in the way, he couldn't go any further. The exit seemed to be not far ahead. Gu Fei couldn't help but feel a wave of disappointment. Was it a coincidence or was it intentional? No one knew that Gu Fei wanted to ascend the divine mountain. However, he found that the entire mountain was enveloped by a power that made it difficult for even Gu Fei to ascend. The divine mountain was incomparably silent. There was no aura of any cultivators. That mysterious expert wasn't there either. This absolute silence gave Gu Fei a strange feeling. Preposterous! Gu Fei had no choice but to retreat. The path ahead was blocked unless he could move the divine mountain away. However, this was the place where the Tao ancestor once preached and was supported by a supreme's power. Even if he used a supreme divine weapon, he might not be able to move this immortal Tao divine mountain. The primordial divine light shone down from the divine mountain, piercing through the void of primordial chaos. It posed a certain threat to Gu Fei. Gu Fei had no choice but to turn back. He had the Tao pattern that He Tian had left behind on him, and he could sense where He Tian was. Shua! He quickly traversed through the primal chaos, breaking through the layers of primal chaos chi as he rapidly approached He Tian's location. Boss is coming back. He Tian sensed something and knew that Gu Fei was about to return. He couldn't help but feel shocked that there was an unexpected discovery in the primal chaos. It was indeed a great surprise to both Gu Fei and He Tian. Shua! Primal chaos chi surged and a figure walked out from the primal chaos chi in front of everyone. Master! Gu Zhong and old Jiao hurriedly went to greet the person who walked out of the primal chaos. Gu Fei had returned. They wanted to know what was inside the primal chaos. Boss! He Tian went forward and retrieved a Tao pattern that was branded on Gu Fei's body. I didn't expect the divine mountain of the Shin race to appear again. Gu Fei said something that shocked He Tian. He knew the origin of the ancestral mountain of the Shin race. It was the ruler of the Hell Path, the ancestral mountain of the Shin race. The Hell Path was a large world refined by the Buddhist Lord. This world was comparable to a complete world and was one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. The Shin race was once the ruler of the Hell Path. Of course, the current Hell Path had already been refined by Gu Fei with the World Origin Bead. Although it was still difficult for Gu Fei to refine that world into his body with his current cultivation, he could already use the power of the World Bead to draw the power of the Hell Path for his own use. Where are the people of the Shin race? Asked He Tian hurriedly. The current him was no longer afraid of the Shin race. However, the Shin race represented the inheritance of the Supreme Tao ancestor. This kind of foundation was not inferior to any ancient desolate forces. I don't know where they are, replied Gu Fei. This matter was very strange. The people of the Shin race had disappeared, but a mysterious person had appeared. What happened to the people of the Shin race? This was something that Gu Fei wanted to know. He Tian seemed to have thought of something and his face turned ugly. Let's go. Bring me to them. He Tian pulled Gu Fei into the chaos ahead. Before he entered the chaos, he seemed to put 2 Tao patterns into the bodies of Gu Zhong and old Jiao. This way, he didn't have to be afraid of getting lost in the chaos. Gu Zhong and old Jiao could only guard outside. Just as He Tian pulled Gu Fei into the chaos channel, Heng Xiong and the others were also waiting on the cliff outside the ruins of the mythological era. Boss Heng Xiong, we entered the 100,000 mountain range to explore this time. I didn't expect that we would have a master, a big man among the 9 said. They were either sitting or standing. They were all in a good mood. One must know that ordinary sects wouldn't accept rogue cultivators like them. This was because the cultivation method they practiced had already taken shape and was deeply rooted in them. It was impossible for them to abandon the cultivation they had already cultivated and switch to another cultivation method. It's our luck to encounter such a great opportunity. Boss Hengxiong was also very happy. He didn't have to be a rogue cultivator anymore. What kind of person do you think our master is? The sloppy old man sat on a big stone under the tree and pondered for a long time before saying this. He had lived for such a long time and was very meticulous. Ordinary people couldn't compare with him. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but turn silent. That's right, just who was their new master? Such a powerful existence definitely wasn't some unknown person in the cultivation world. In the world of cultivation, the only power with the surname Gu is the Gu family in the Sorcerer Land at the border between the Central Plains and the West Earth. Hengxiong was an experienced rogue cultivator. He had been to most places in the human world. The Gu family in the Sorcerer Land was not a big power. However, the Gu family had a heaven-defying existence. No one dared to look down on him. Moreover, Gu Zhong was Gu Fei's disciple. Who was Gu Fei? There was probably no one in the world of cultivation who didn't know Gu Fei's name. He was a monster who dared to compete with half-sages and quasi-sages. It seems that we have a good master. Everyone guessed the identity of Gu Fei's master and disciple. In the cultivation world, everything was determined by one's strength. There was no doubt that Gu Fei and his disciple were powerful. They were really lucky to be able to have such a master. Hey! Suddenly, a voice came down from the sky. Chapter 1813. Outside the ancient ruins, Hengxiong and the others were chatting. Suddenly, someone rode a huge bird and flew above them. Who is it? Hengxiong and the others were very vigilant, but they didn't notice the newcomer. It was only when the newcomer spoke that they noticed his presence. They were extremely shocked because there was only one possibility that they couldn't sense the person's existence. The person's cultivation and strength were far above theirs. Why does this person have the aura of the young medicine king? The person was a young man in white clothes with a silver crown on his head. He had a handsome face and straight eyebrows. He was a handsome man. Beautiful cultivators were very common in the cultivation world. One should know that once a cultivator's cultivation reached a certain level, they could change their appearance at will. Whoosh! The young cultivator descended from the sky on the huge bird. A piercingly cold astral wind swept down from the sky. Sand and pebbles flew from the cliff. Even some short trees were uprooted. Hengxiong and the others couldn't help being shocked by this scene. Their guesses had come true. This person's cultivation base really was much higher than theirs. Even the feathered animal beneath the young man's feet was very ferocious. It was a black condor. The condor spread its wings like two doors. The astral wind caused by the flapping of its wings made Hengxiong and the others lose their balance. Squeak, squeak. At this moment, something jumped down from the hand of the young cultivator on the back of the black condor and pounced at the slovenly old man. What? Everyone was taken aback. Hengxiong was, after all, an expert of the ninth heavens of Immortal God realm. He was only a step away from the Immortal Emperor realm. With his sharp eyes and swift hands he slashed at the thing that was lunging at the sloppy old man. Humph! The young cultivator on the back of the black condor quickly waved his sleeve when he saw Hengxiong's attack. A gust of astral wind suddenly appeared and swept towards Hengxiong. Roar! Hengxiong roared furiously as his long hair fluttered madly. In that instant, he erupted with his most powerful cultivation base and battle prowess, causing ripples that could be seen with the naked eye to ripple in the air. However, no matter how much Hengxiong channeled the immortal force in his body, he could not contend against the young cultivator. The strong wind swept over and directly blew Hengxiong away along with his sword. Hey! The clothes on the chest of the sloppy old man were torn by that thing, and a jade box fell out. It was caught by that thing, then it jumped onto the back of the black eagle and landed on the shoulder of the young cultivator. You! The sloppy old man was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. The jade box contained the young king medicine that his master, Gu Zhong, had given him. That was the young medicine king. Ordinary cultivators simply couldn't obtain such a divine medicine. This young medicine king was very important to the sloppy old man. He had severed his cultivation and needed this kind of divine medicine to replenish the essence energy in his body. With this young king medicine, he would be able to recover very quickly. But now, this incomparably precious young king medicine king had been snatched away by a little bastard. This little guy is so obedient. He knows what I want. The young cultivator opened the jade box and a wave of pure spiritual energy immediately rushed out. A divine medicine surrounded by spiritual light lay inside the jade box. On the young man's shoulder, there was a little marten squeaking happily. It was very intelligent. That was just given to me by Master. In his excitement, the blood in the sloppy old man's body surged and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was flushed red. Under the combination of shock and anger, he almost triggered the hidden injuries in his body. Master, giving a young king medicine king to a mortal. The black eagle stopped above the cliff. The young man on the eagle's back couldn't help but frown. He knew the value of a young king medicine king. To be able to give it to someone so casually, this person's master must have some background. Who the hell are you? We have never offended you. At this time, Heng Xiong, who had been sent flying by the young man, walked over. He wasn't injured, but the other party's high cultivation shocked him. You don't have the right to know who I am, the young cultivator arrogantly said. His background was too good, so he didn't care about these low cultivation vagrant cultivators. The only thing he was afraid of was the old man's master. This was a great era in the mortal world. The cultivation world was extremely prosperous. Even immortals were not high and mighty in this world. The young cultivator also knew that there were some hidden experts that he couldn't provoke. I'll be taking this young king medicine king. Consider it a gift from you guys. The young cultivator was about to leave, but Heng Xiong had already rushed over. Rays of bright sword light shot out from his body and pierced through the young cultivator on the black eagle. You overestimate yourself. The young man directly reached out his right hand and pressed down. Rays of pure sword light shattered under his palm. This time, Heng Xiong suffered a great impact and was directly slapped down from the sky by the young man. Boom! The cliff shook and countless rocks rolled down. A large palm print appeared on the cliff. In the center of the palm was a person. That person was Heng Xiong. HHHH. Almost all of Heng Xiong's bones were shattered. His ninth-layer immortal body was covered in blood and flesh. The young cultivator's attack had thoroughly defeated him. It wasn't that he was too weak. Chapter 1814. The carefree immortal emperor was very powerful. Heng Xiong and the others were merely ants in his eyes. Even if he killed them all, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, it was obvious that Heng Xiong and the others still had their own sect behind them. This made the carefree immortal emperor a little wary. Of course, it was just a little. After all, who would dare to provoke the carefree sect in southern wasteland? The carefree sect had a good relationship with the 4 ancient clans of southern wasteland. This was the key to the sect's development in southern wasteland. Moreover, the carefree sect itself was extremely powerful. It was said that the Xiaoyao ancestral master was a powerful half-saint realm expert. A sect with a half-saint realm expert wouldn't be weak because a half-saint realm expert was powerful enough to deter all forces. Just as Heng Xiong and the others were in despair, a voice suddenly came from below the cliff. The carefree sect, how impressive! Immediately after that, 2 figures flashed out from the bottom of the cliff. Both of them were young cultivators and they did not emanate any formidable aura. What bullshit sect, I've never heard of it. One of the sturdy young men shook his head and said, You! In the sky above the cliff, the carefree immortal emperor standing on the back of the black condor was both shocked and angry. These 2 dared to look down on the carefree sect, they deserved to die. However, he knew very well that those who dared to ignore the carefree sect must have a powerful background. Otherwise, who would be willing to offend such a powerful force? What about you? Hurry up and call out that young herb king and piss off. The sturdy man's temper wasn't that good. If it wasn't for him not wanting to cause trouble, this carefree immortal emperor would have already become a dead immortal emperor. Master, Heng Xiong and the others were surprised and overjoyed to see this person. At this time, Heng Xiong had barely crawled out from the giant palm on the ground. He was an immortal, so his physique was extremely powerful. His broken bones were rapidly recovering. Even though his injuries were serious, they were only injuries to his immortal body. His origin wasn't harmed. "You're courting death." The carefree immortal emperor was enraged. Ever since he started cultivating, no one had dared to speak to him like this. The arrogant him found it hard to swallow his anger. The power of the immortal path exploded from his body. Bang! Young immortal Emperor Xiaoyao extended his right hand and slammed it down from the sky. A powerful force of the immortal Tao rushed out from his hand and turned into a huge hand. It instantly enveloped a part of the world and slammed down on the head of the sturdy cultivator on the ground. He had used this move to easily defeat Heng Xiong, who was at the 9th heaven of the immortal god realm. However, his opponent this time was not Heng Xiong, but Gu Zhong. Gu Zhong's cultivation was many times stronger than Heng Xiong's. Immense power of the immortal Tao surged down from the hand, causing ripples visible to the naked eye to appear in the air. Its might was not small at all. However, the two young cultivators that were enveloped by the large hand revealed a cold smile on their faces. In the eyes of the carefree little immortal emperor, this made him feel slightly uneasy. "Originally, I didn't want to bicker with trash like you. However, since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish." Gu Zhong's words didn't contain the slightest bit of emotion. He was incomparably calm. His hand slammed down from the sky. He merely stretched out his right hand and pressed upwards. Boom! The immortal hand that slammed down from the sky immediately exploded. Gu Zhong then soared into the sky and instantly appeared in front of the carefree little immortal emperor. He reached out his hand and grabbed the neck of the young immortal emperor, lifting him up into the air. "Who do you think you are? My disciple isn't someone you can bully." Gu Zhong was incomparably domineering. The life and death of the carefree little immortal emperor was already under his control. With just a thought, he could decide a person's life and death. Squeak squeak. Just as Gu Zhong grabbed the carefree little immortal emperor, a white silhouette charged out from the carefree little immortal emperor's shoulder and pounced at Gu Zhong's face. "What kind of beast is this?" Gu Zhong's movements were extremely fast. He reached out and slapped the white sable away. It then exploded into a small cloud of blood mist in the air. A spiritual beast was killed by Gu Zhong just like that. Roar! The carefree little immortal emperor's eyes turned red. This guy actually killed his favorite spiritual beast. He almost went berserk and struggled with all his might. What a pity! Old Jiao wanted to stop him, but he was a step too late in the end. He couldn't save the white sable. The white sable was not simple. It was very likely that it was a treasure-seeking spiritual beast that could sense the existence of treasures. However, Gu Zhong didn't know what was good for him. He actually killed this rare spiritual beast with a single slap. "Weren't you very cocky just now? Do you believe that I won't kill you with a single slap?" In front of Gu Zhong, the carefree little immortal emperor didn't even have the strength to resist. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Killing this guy was as easy as blowing off dust. "Do you know who I am? Let me go, or else I'll make you die a horrible death." The carefree little immortal emperor was truly afraid of death. This person was actually so powerful. In front of him, he was simply like a child. He had no strength to resist at all. Just now, the carefree little immortal emperor was still high and mighty. He didn't put Heng Xiong and the others in his eyes and was extremely arrogant. But now, even if he was a dragon, he had to coil up. "Ha!" Gu Zhong laughed loudly, and then directly slapped the head of the carefree little immortal emperor into a cloud of bloody mist. For cultivators, the primordial spirit resided in the Naiwen Palace between the eyebrows. Since the carefree little immortal emperor's head was smashed into a mist of blood by Gu Zhong, his Naiwen Palace was naturally destroyed as well. Even the primordial spirit within the Naiwen Palace couldn't escape. The carefree little immortal emperor was dead. His primordial spirit was destroyed, and his physical body was also destroyed. With such injuries, there was only one result, and that was to die. He couldn't be more dead. Immortal cultivators all had two lives. One was the corporeal body. Even if the primordial spirit was gone, as long as the corporeal body wasn't destroyed, the corporeal body would still be able to survive. However, the divine abilities of the corporeal body would disappear along with the primordial spirit. If the primordial spirit was destroyed, the cultivator's Tao foundation would be destroyed as well. The other life was the primordial spirit. Even if the physical body was destroyed, as long as the primordial spirit wasn't destroyed, it could be reborn through various methods. This, seeing Gu Zhong directly kill the carefree little immortal emperor, even the old dragon was extremely shocked. He could tell that this little immortal emperor wasn't ordinary. He was killed just like that. Heng Xiong and the others knew the origins of the carefree little immortal emperor. He was the young master of the carefree sect, but he was actually killed by his own master with a single slap. Chapter 18:15. Gu Zhong killed the carefree little immortal emperor with a single slap. An immortal emperor was killed with a single slap. This scene stunned everyone. Even old Flood Dragon was shaken. Although he knew that his senior was very strong, he didn't expect his senior to be so abnormal that he could kill an immortal emperor with a single slap. Immortal emperors were existences second only to almighty experts. This carefree little immortal emperor's cultivation and strength were definitely at the top of the immortal emperors, but Gu Zhong killed him just like that. Croak! The carefree little immortal emperor died. The black eagle let out a mournful cry and wanted to shake off the person on its back. It then flapped its wings and flew back to report the news. However, before the black eagle could soar into the sky, Gu Zhong stomped on its back with his right foot. Bang! The black condor's body immediately exploded from Gu Zhong's stomp, turning into a bloody mist. Even its soul did not manage to escape, and it could not be any more dead than it was. Humph, what carefree sect! What carefree little immortal emperor! You can't even withstand a single blow. Gu Zhong descended from the sky. He had already retrieved the jade box containing the young medicine king, then threw the headless corpse of the carefree little immortal emperor down the cliff. At his level of cultivation, he no longer needed to fear a sect like the carefree sect. One must know that even if the carefree sect had a good relationship with the four ancient clans of the southern wasteland, they might not necessarily be able to make the experts of the four ancient clans work for them. The price to pay to deal with an accomplished warrior was too great. No force was willing to bear it. Even the primordial Zhao clan had to hand over the people who had attacked the Supreme Mystery sect in order to temporarily resolve the enmity between them and Gu Fei. The carefree sect won't be able to cause any trouble. Gu Zhong's words were a reflection of his confidence. Just as Gu Zhong was killing the carefree little immortal emperor, in a spiritual land somewhere in the southern wasteland, a life lamp that was burning vigorously suddenly extinguished without any warning. Roar! Very quickly, an angry roar came from the depths of the spiritual land. The entire area shook, and the aura of a saint spread out in all directions. That's where the Xiaoyao sect's ancestral court is. Is the Xiaoyao ancestral master coming out? Some cultivators near the spiritual land were shocked to the extreme when they sensed the aura of the saint. Xiaoyao ancestral master was a very old name. The Xiaoyao old ancestor was the founder of the Xiaoyao old ancestor. He was a famous figure tens of thousands of years ago. Some people said that the Xiaoyao old ancestor was a figure in the late period of ancient times. However, some people came looking for them at this time. The experts of the Xiaoyao sect had arrived, and they met up with Gu Fei and the others in a mountain range in the outer region of the 100,000 mountains. How dare you! You actually dared to kill my sect's young master! You deserve to die! Roared one of the leaders of the Xiaoyao sect. His voice shook the sky, echoing through the mountains, echoing unceasingly. How did they know that I killed that young immortal emperor? Gu Zhong was very surprised. When he killed that young immortal emperor, he was already very careful. His primordial spirit didn't even have the chance to escape. Looks like I've underestimated the Xiaoyao sect. Gu Zhong immediately understood after thinking about it. It seemed like the carefree little immortal emperor had used some sort of secret technique before he died, allowing these people to immediately recognize that he was the one who killed him. Xiaoyao sect. On top of the mountain, Gu Fei's face was expressionless. He already knew that Gu Zhong had killed the young master of the Xiaoyao sect, but it didn't matter. In the world of cultivation, whoever had the hardest fist was the boss. Gu Zhong's fist was harder than young immortal emperor's fist. Gu Zhong killing young immortal emperor was the same as killing young immortal emperor. There was no need to be afraid of the force behind young immortal emperor. The path of martial arts was to always maintain an indomitable and courageous state. Too many worries and guesses would only affect one's Tao heart. Master this. On the opposite mountain, there were 18 golden-armored deities. Every single one of them was emitting powerful immortal ripples. The enemy's formation made Heng Xiong and the others extremely shocked. What are you panicking for? These people are just a bunch of trash. I can kill them all with a wave of my hand. It's useless no matter how many come. Gu Zhong was very confident. The moment he used the heaven-covering palm, the 18 golden-armored deities spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Even the golden armor on their bodies dimmed. This was the immortal Tao battle armor refined by the Xiaoyao ancestral master, but it couldn't even protect them. Could it be that the opponent was a half-saint? Although the Xiaoyao sect couldn't be compared to the 4 great ancient clans of the southern wasteland, they still had a team of golden-armored warriors. Although there weren't many of them, every single one of them was an expert of the sect. Run! 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 The 18 golden-armored warriors only had one thought, and that was to run. These people weren't people they could fight against. The 18 of them couldn't even withstand a single attack from the opponent. If they didn't run now, they would lose their lives here. However, could they escape? Bam! Gu Zhong attacked once again. His hand covered the sky, and the 18 golden-armored warriors that were fleeing in different directions were all enveloped by the hand, making it difficult for them to escape. Rumble. The heaven-covering palm descended with a powerful force that shook the heavens and the earth. Pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void below the heaven-covering palm. Some of the golden-armored warriors were hit by the black cracks, and their bodies immediately shattered. The power of the spatial cracks was too strong. Even the immortal armors refined by a half-saint couldn't protect them. Without any suspense, the heaven-covering palm descended and the 18 golden-armored warriors were instantly obliterated. Not even a speck of dust was left. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. Master is too strong. Heng Xiong and the others were dumbfounded. One person killed a group of golden-armored warriors. If this news were to spread, the entire southern wasteland would be shaken. Humph, just some shrimp and crab soldiers. He Tian said unhappily. The Xiaoyao sect didn't have any real experts. However, the death of the 18 golden-armored warriors was a great loss to the Xiaoyao sect. The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect looked at the 18 broken jade medallions. His face was extremely gloomy. Who was it? The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect raised his head and roared in anger. His son was dead, and now 18 golden-armored warriors were also dead. This made him go crazy. He could only guess who killed them from the qi of the enemies. However, he didn't know who it was. Do I have to go there myself? The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect walked out and arrived at the ancestral land of the Xiaoyao sect. What is it? An old voice came from the depths of the ancestral land. Ancestor, the 18 warriors I sent are all dead. The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect lowered his head and said carefully. There was only one person in the entire Xiaoyao sect who could make him lower his head. What? The old voice was obviously shocked. Who are they? Did you find out who they are? Ancestor, I am useless. I don't know who killed our people. The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect said in fear. Trash. The old voice sounded angry. The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The anger of the ancestor was not something to be taken lightly. Ancestor, please help us. The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect really didn't know what to do. 18 of the golden-armored warriors had been killed. Obviously, the enemy was not someone to be trifled with. When 18 warriors fought together, they could even fight against a peak-level cultivator for a while. How could they be killed so easily? Most importantly, as time passed, the aura on those people would completely dissipate. At that time, it would be very difficult to find the culprit. When the young immortal emperor died, he indeed used a secret technique. It was a secret technique of the Xiaoyao sect that could determine who killed the young immortal emperor within a certain period of time. It was also because of this that the 18 gold-armored warriors found Gu Fei and the others. This secret technique could only let the people of the Xiaoyao sect know who killed the young immortal emperor, but they couldn't find out the identity or appearance of the killer. Could it be that someone is secretly plotting against the Xiaoyao sect? In the depths of the ancestral land of the Xiaoyao sect, an old man sat cross-legged on a rock. He opened his eyes and 2 beams of divine light shot out from his eyes. It looked like 2 bolts of lightning flashing in the sky. "You can leave, I will take care of this." The Xiaoyao sect ancestor spoke for a while, then sent the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect away. Young immortal Emperor Xiaoyao was the most outstanding figure among the young generation of the Xiaoyao sect. At such a young age, he had already cultivated the immortal emperor fruit. Given time, he might be able to break through to the realm of Almighty. Such a good seedling was killed. Even the Xiaoyao sect ancestor, who hadn't paid attention to worldly affairs for many years, was alarmed. "I'd like to see who dares to oppose me." The Xiaoyao ancestral master stood up from the bluestone. In the next moment, the bluestone was empty, and the faint mist circled around it. Below the Xiaoyao sect's ancestral land was a spirit vein that was shrouded in mist all year round. In fact, this mist was completely formed by the spiritual essence of the heaven and earth in the ancestral land. The Xiaoyao sect ancestor had set up a spirit gathering formation in this area, gathering spiritual essence from all directions at all times. In the entire Xiaoyao sect, only the Xiaoyao sect ancestor had the ability to gather spiritual essence from all directions for cultivation. After 10,000 years, the spiritual essence in the Xiaoyao sect's ancestral land was enough to form a mist visible to the naked eye. At this time, Gu Fei and the others also came out from the 100,000 mountain range. They had gained a lot from this trip to the 100,000 mountain range, and their foundations had become more solid. Gu Zhong, in particular, had taken in 9 disciples in one go. These disciples were all at the immortal realm, and only the sloppy old man was immortal. However, by this time, the sloppy old man had already taken the young king herb. Then, Gu Fei healed the hidden injuries of the great Tao in his body. With Gu Fei's current cultivation level, the hidden injuries of the great Tao were nothing. Under the nourishment of the young king herb, the sloppy old man's physique quickly transformed. His white hair turned black, and his muscles, bones, and flesh regained vitality. The frail old man had actually turned into a vigorous middle-aged man in just half a day's time. Heng Xiong and the others were dumbfounded by the old man's transformation. It was a miracle that the sloppy old man had turned into a sloppy man. No one would believe it even if they told others. The sloppy old man was so grateful to Gu Fei and his disciples that he swore to be loyal to them. The heaven-defying means that Gu Fei and Gu Zhong had displayed shocked everyone. Even the old flood dragon felt lucky that he had such a powerful master. Heng Xiong and the others were even more loyal to Gu Zhong. Where else could they find such a powerful master? More importantly, they were the only people in their sect. If their sect became more powerful in the future, they would be the senior brothers of all the others. Being a core disciple was something that Heng Xiong and the others dared not imagine before. "Master, are we still going back to Dragon Emperor City?" Gu Zhong asked Gu Fei. "Of course, why not?" Gu Fei had already achieved the semi-sage Tao fruit. It was time to shock those guys. Only now could he show disdain for the others. Very few people could threaten him. If even the Azure Dragon wasn't a match for him, the other powerful beings of the ancient race definitely wouldn't be a match for him. However, existences like Ghost Emperor Fingdu could still threaten Gu Fei. No one knew how many existences like Ghost Emperor Fingdu were in the human realm. Chapter 1817. Dragon Emperor City. This ancient city had been standing in South Wilderness for a long time. Even in the darkest age of the cultivation world, it was not destroyed. The city wall was full of traces of time. In the evening, they came to the vicinity of the city gate of Dragon Emperor City. Immortal soldiers guarding the city gate. Actually, Heng Xiong and the others had been to Dragon Emperor City before. However, there were no immortal-level immortal soldiers guarding the city gate at that time. Therefore, they were shocked by such a great achievement. In the secular world, Dragon Emperor City seemed to be transcendent. Of course, in the eyes of all the clans in South Wilderness, Dragon Emperor City's status was second only to their ancestral land. The Supreme Dragon Emperor was once the Supreme Dragon Emperor that all the clans in South Wilderness worshipped. The era of the Supreme Dragon Emperor was so long ago that no one could remember the existence of such an existence in the southern wasteland. The new generation replaced the old one and rose generation after generation. As a result, the cultivation world could be passed down from generation to generation. Why do I feel that this ancient city is a bit different? After breaking through to the semi-sage level realm, Gu Fei sensed a bit strange qi when he came to Dragon Emperor City. He had an illusion that the huge city in front of him was alive. I also have the same feeling. He Tian nodded. At their realm, they could already sense the great Tao and touch the edge of the great Tao. The huge city in front of them gave out a special Tao qi. This shocked Gu Fei and He Tian very much. Master, what are you talking about? Gu Shong and Old Flood Dragon were confused. However, they knew that something that could move Gu Fei and He Tian was definitely extraordinary. Heh, little nephew, when you reach my realm, you will know what we're talking about. He Tian's face turned solemn for a short while. Closely after that, he revealed a mischievous smile. At this moment, Heng Xiong and the others all knew that He Tian was a powerful semi-sage level cultivator. Therefore, they were all in awe of him. Let's go. It's time to pay a visit to our old friends. Gu Fei directly walked towards the city gate, closely followed by He Tian and the others. Soon, they entered Dragon Emperor City and disappeared in the streets. These people actually. After Gu Fei and the others entered Dragon Emperor City, a figure walked out of the dark. He was the head of Xiaoyao sect in a purple robe and a Taoist hat. The leader of the Xiaoyao sect sensed a strange energy coming from Gu Shong, which made him sure that this was the person who killed his only son, the Xiaoyao Immortal Emperor. The carefree little Immortal Emperor had been killed. This was definitely a huge blow to the carefree sect leader. One must know that the carefree little Immortal Emperor was not only his only son, he was also the #1 candidate for the next sect leader. Now that the carefree young Immortal Emperor was dead, the next sect leader of the carefree sect would be replaced. Humph! I will make you pay with your blood. The carefree sect leader muttered to himself. His eyes shone with a vicious light, then he turned around and disappeared into the darkness. With the power of the Xiaoyao sect in the southern wasteland, it was not difficult to find out the background of those people. Soon, a detailed report was sent to the carefree sect leader. That person is Gu Fei's disciple, Gu Zhong. When the carefree sect leader found out that his enemy was Gu Fei and his disciple, he couldn't help but be shocked and angry. The opponent's background was too powerful, which made him very afraid. One must know that Gu Fei's reputation was built by killing. Even Azure Dragon might not be a match for Gu Fei. If he wanted to take revenge, he would have to ask the Xiaoyao Old Ancestor. However, even the Xiaoyao Old Ancestor was afraid of Gu Fei. The carefree sect leader was only the Xiaoyao Old Ancestor's disciple's disciple. It seemed that the Xiaoyao Old Ancestor would not risk his life to fight Gu Fei for the son of his disciple's disciple. However, the carefree sect leader knew that his patriarch had already left the ancestral land of the Xiaoyao sect. It would be better if they both suffer losses. By then, I will be able to completely control the Xiaoyao sect. In the ancestral land of the Xiaoyao sect, the carefree sect leader's face constantly changed. As an ambitious person, he didn't want to be a puppet sect leader. After all, the carefree sect was founded by the Xiaoyao Old Ancestor. As long as the Xiaoyao Old Ancestor was there, the so-called sect leader of the Xiaoyao sect was just a puppet. With one word, the Xiaoyao old ancestor could decide who would be the sect leader of the Xiaoyao sect. The current carefree sect leader trembled in fear of making the Xiaoyao old ancestor unhappy. If the Xiaoyao old ancestor was unhappy, his position as the sect leader would come to an end. Nobody would like to be a puppet for the rest of their lives, including the carefree sect leader. At this moment, the 9th floor of the Drunken Immortal residence in Dragon Emperor City was ablaze with lights. Almost all the young powerhouses in Dragon Emperor City had arrived. Zhongli Meng, the boss of Drunken Immortal residence, was going to invite Gu Fei and his disciple to a banquet. The news that Gu Fei had arrived made all the forces in Dragon Emperor City restless. Gu Fei was a fierce person who couldn't even defeat Azure Dragon. All the races in the southern wasteland were well informed. There was a problem within the Azure Dragon clan. Someone said that during the battle between the Azure Dragon clan and Gu Fei, the bloodline power that the Azure Dragon clan had painstakingly gathered was scattered by Gu Fei. If his bloodline strength was broken, Azure Dragon would not be Azure Dragon anymore. Although he might lose his position as the current Azure Dragon, he would not give up the title of Azure Dragon that easily. The discord in Azure Dragon clan had long been spread out. Although the battle between Gu Fei and Azure Dragon didn't come to an end, Gu Fei had made a great breakthrough and triggered the Heavenly Tribulation of Semi-Sage level. Additionally, he had passed the Heavenly Tribulation successfully. Azure Dragon was definitely not able to defeat Gu Fei unless he could make a great breakthrough and promote to a quasi-sage level. Otherwise, how could he compete with Gu Fei? It was not a legend that a cultivator was unrivaled among the same level. After Gu Fei arrived, many people wanted to see Gu Fei's demeanor. All the young talents of major forces in Dragon Emperor City wanted to see this figure. Therefore, the 9th floor of the Drunken Immortal residence became boisterous. Of course, it was impossible for Gu Fei to meet these people in the lobby. There were other VIP pavilions on the 9th floor of the Drunken Immortal residence. However, the lobby had been fully occupied. In a very inconspicuous corner of the hall sat an old man wearing a Taoist robe. This old Taoist didn't have the aura of a cultivator, but even so, this old Taoist seemed to have a strange power that made people unwilling to get too close to him. Gu Fei. He's the little guy who triggered the Heavenly Tribulation of Semi-Sage level in the battle. The old Taoist was pouring himself a cup and drinking. Gu Fei is really something. He triggered the Heavenly Tribulation of Semi-Sage level in the battle. How abnormal! That's right. Even Azure Dragon wasn't a match for him. Among the rising stars of the southern wasteland in the past 1,000 years, I'm afraid no one is a match for him. Was such a battle god on the way to becoming a sage, it seems that many people will be despairing. Many people were chatting, and their conversations were all about the person in the VIP pavilion. This was the opportunity to become a sage. Once one became a sage, he would be invincible in the world. In front of a true sage, all semi-sage and quasi-sage were like ants. However, Gu Fei's sudden appearance and rapid rise within a few hundred years had indeed made many people despair. With such a battle god, the competition on the road to becoming a sage would be extremely fierce. Although Azure Dragon was defeated, he would definitely make a comeback. In this great world, one had to seize every moment. No one was willing to give up the opportunity to become a sage. However, this path was too difficult. Furthermore, once someone became a martial sage, their strength would suppress all das. At that time, it would be much more difficult for others to become martial sages. The most terrifying thing was that the process of becoming a sage was to fight against the heavenly Tao, break through the shackles of heaven and earth, soar into the sky, and trample on the heavenly Tao. When that happened, the heavenly Tao would be chaotic, and there would be almost no chance for others to become a sage. Becoming a sage. A wisp of shrewd light flashed across the old Taoist's turbid eyes. At this moment, in the VIP pavilion, Zhongli Ming was introducing some powerhouses in Dragon Emperor City to Gu Fei. They were all rising stars in the past hundreds of years. Brother Gu, this is Gong Sun Wang. Brother Gong Sun is also a martial artist. However, he's just an immortal. However, many seniors think highly of Brother Gong's son. Hearing this, Gu Fei couldn't help being startled. This Gong Sun Wang was actually a cultivator. Gu Fei couldn't sense the aura coming from this Gong Sun Wang, so he was likely carrying an artifact that could conceal his aura. Some people from major clans were different than commoners. Martial artist immortal. Even Mahakala was taken aback. He knew very well how difficult it was to cultivate on the path of martial arts. This person had only used a few hundred years to cultivate to the immortal god stage. This person also seemed to have a pretty good aptitude. Gu Fei and He Tian couldn't help but take a few more glances at Gong Sun Wang. Nice to meet you, Brother Gu and Brother He. Gong Sun Wang hurriedly stood up as he cupped his hands towards Gu Fei and He Tian. Gu Fei and He Tian just nodded. Based on their cultivation base and battle strength, it was already a great honor for them to meet these people. Therefore, these people dared not show any dissatisfaction. Gong Sun Wang then sat down. As far as I know, martial artists have long been extinct in the mortal realm. I've not imagined that I could meet someone like me. Gu Fei was also amazed. Is the inheritance of martial artists not extinct in the mortal realm? You're right, Brother Gu. I was lucky enough to obtain the inheritance of an ancient martial arts master. That's why I'm able to achieve what I have today, Gong Sun Wang said. Oh. Gu Fei nodded. He didn't comment on Gong Sun Wang's words. He didn't want to know too much about it. On the road of martial arts, Gu Fei only had one belief: I'm unrivaled. Even if the other party was a semi-sage martial artist like him, Gu Fei's belief would not be shaken. Brother Gu, this is Long Bideo. Brother Long is from extraterrestrial Immortal Mountain. Zhong Liman continued. Extraterrestrial Immortal Mountain. Chapter 1818. Extraterrestrial Divine Mountain was an ancient inheritance. Legend had it that this inheritance was not on the earth, but in the mysterious sky beyond heaven. Sky beyond heaven was a forbidden area in the depths of the endless starry sky. No one knew its exact location, but there was a powerful and ancient inheritance there. You are from extraterrestrial Divine Mountain. He Tian's eyes flickered. He was very interested in this mysterious inheritance. The origin of extraterrestrial Divine Mountain was definitely not inferior to those families of the remote antiquity. More importantly, he suspected that the mysterious sky beyond heaven might be a great world created by the ancient supremes. No one could imagine the means of the ancient supremes. Creating the world was just a matter of raising one's hand. The ancient supremes had a complete great Tao, and the world they created was infinitely close to the real great Tao. There was even an ancient legend that the great Tao created by the ancient supremes had a chance of ultimate transformation, and it was very likely to become a real great Tao. The world was absolutely supreme for all living beings living in it. The heavenly Tao was ruthless, and it deterred all living beings. This was a kind of heavenly might. Any living being that wanted to break the heavenly Tao would attract the punishment of the heavenly Tao. As for the supremes, they were equivalent to the heavenly Tao. They had already jumped out of the great Tao and were not bound by the heavenly Tao law. The world created by the supremes had the highest chance of ultimate transformation and become a real perfect great Tao. I come from extraterrestrial Divine Mountain. Long Bideo's tone was extremely calm. Extraterrestrial Divine Mountain was a transcendent existence. He also had a secret treasure to hide his aura, so he was not afraid that Gu Fei and the others would be able to see through him. I have long been fascinated by the sky beyond heaven. When I have time, I will go and see it. He Tian laughed. Gu Fei saw He Tian's expression and couldn't help but think, is this guy thinking about the sky beyond heaven? It is not a good place. The sky beyond heaven was a forbidden area, and its location was uncertain, so it was very difficult to find. One should know that the depths of the starry sky was not a place that anyone could go. The starry sky was vast and boundless, and even a half-saint could get lost in it. Since ancient times, many people had wanted to enter the sky beyond heaven. However, it seemed that no one had ever succeeded. Some people even suspected that the outer sky divine mountain in the sky beyond sky might be an inheritance left behind by an ancient supreme being. This inheritance was extremely ancient and powerful. Welcome. Long Badeo did not seem to be a talkative person, but when he saw He Tian's interest in heavens beyond, he had to be careful. One must know that He Tian did not have a good reputation. Haha, with Brother Long's words I can rest assured. The smile on He Tian's face deepened. Of course, he was not a fool. Long Badeo was just being polite. He did not think that Long Badeo would bring him to heavens beyond. Brother Gu, this is Chiu Wuqing, the successor of the northernmost divine ocean. Zhong Li Ming introduced the last black-robed young man to Gu Fei. The young man only nodded at Gu Fei and did not say anything. The northernmost divine ocean. Gu Fei couldn't help being startled. He was no stranger to the fallen god sea. He had once been to the God-Fiend Island in the fallen god sea and encountered the God-Fiend Avatar, the successor of the divine demon. Gu Fei was truly moved. The divine demon was an ancient name that could be traced back to the mythological era. The ancient divine demons were all extremely powerful and had the characteristics of the divine demon and the divine demon. They were gods in the day and demons in the night. Such a race once ruled over a region and was incomparably prosperous. However, they gradually declined in the end. In today's great era, there was no news of the birth of a true divine demon. Among the three people that Zhong Li Ming introduced to Gu Fei, other than Gong Sunwang, the other two had powerful backgrounds. Haha, Brother Gu has a good eye. Brother Chiu has the bloodline of the divine demon and is the number one of the younger generation in the divine ocean, Zhong Li Ming said with a smile. Whether it was the extraterrestrial divine mountain or the divine ocean, such forces were not something that the Zhong Li clan could compare with. This time, Zhong Li Ming actually felt a little helpless when he invited Gu Fei. This was because some people wanted to get to know the human race martial physique that even Azure Dragon was no match for. It could only be said that Gu Fei's limelight was too strong. Even the people of the extraterrestrial divine mountain and the divine ocean wanted to meet this human race martial physique. How about a spar? Chiu Wuqing looked at Gu Fei and said these two words. In his eyes there was a divine light and demonic chi intertwining, giving people a very strange feeling. The eyes of this descendant of the divine demon were like two invincible black holes that could devour people's divine souls. He Tian took a few more glances and felt that his divine soul was showing signs of leaving his body. Good guy. He Tian was extremely shocked. The number one person from the divine ocean was indeed extraordinary. His strength was probably not below that of Azure Dragon. Why not? Gu Fei met Chiu Wuqing's gaze directly. The strange suction force that was emitted from Chiu Wuqing's eyes couldn't shake Gu Fei's spirit. His spirit and physical body had long merged into one, and there was no distinction between them. Now can we? Chiu Wuqing seemed to want to fight with Gu Fei very much. Interesting. Long Badeo smiled, then also disappeared from the VIP pavilion. Boss Zhongli, remember to tell Old Black the next time you have such celestial wine. Mai Tian raised his head and drained the cup of immortal wine in one gulp. Then, he jumped out of the window and disappeared into the darkness of the night without a trace. These guys! Zhong Li Meng was completely speechless. These people didn't play by the rules, and this caused her to be at a loss for what to do, and she became flustered. The battle between Gu Fei and Chiu Wuqing was not a small matter. Goodbye, Boss Zhong Li. Gong Sunwang also left. His cultivation was not great, but he had a secret method to keep up with He Tian, Long Badeo, and the others. He did not want to miss this battle. Zhong Li Ming's cultivation was not comparable to that of Gu Fei and the others, but she was smarter than them. Soon, the news of the battle between Gu Fei and Chiu Wuqing spread. No one noticed that in the lobby of the 9th floor of the Drunken Immortal residence, an old Taoist had also disappeared without a trace. Human martial body wants to fight a descendant of gods and demons. This explosive news spread to the entire Dragon Emperor city with the Drunken Immortal residence as the center. Soon, people from all the major forces were dispatched. This time, Gu Fei's opponent was not an ordinary person. He was a peerless figure who had walked out of the depths of the God-fallen sea. Others might not know about the ancient inheritance in the depths of the God-fallen sea, but it didn't mean that the higher-ups of the major forces in southern wilderness didn't know about it. The ancient inheritance in the depths of the forbidden area could never be imagined by common sense. To a certain extent, the ancient inheritance in the forbidden area was more mysterious and terrifying than those ancient forces. It should be known that the origins of ancient forces were not a secret. However, ancient inheritances in the forbidden areas like the extraterrestrial Immortal Mountain and the God-fallen sea were covered with a mysterious veil. Facing the unknown, people's first reaction was curiosity, followed by fear. Chapter 18-19. The first person to come out of the God-fallen sea. Gu Fei stood at the top of the mountain and looked at the figure on the opposite mountain. His opponent had a secret treasure to hide his aura, and even he could not see through him. His opponent was an expert who came out of the forbidden zone for life. Gu Fei did not underestimate his opponent. The forbidden zone for life was extremely mysterious, and no one could really find out what was inside. The ancient inheritance in the forbidden zone was extremely powerful. Some people guessed that it might be the inheritance left behind by a supreme. You are very strong. On the opposite mountain, Qiu Wuqing, who was dressed in black, crossed his arms and looked at Gu Fei. Divine light and demonic qi intertwined in his eyes as if he was evolving the divine demon Tao. His words were good and concise. He was not the kind of person who could speak well. You are not weak either, Gu Fei said. Qiu Wuqing knew that Gu Fei had defeated Azure Dragon's bloodline power and still dared to challenge him. He must have something to rely on. Begin. Qiu Wuqing was very direct. He did not want to waste time. Most importantly, if time dragged on, those annoying people would find this place. It was hard not to be discovered in a battle of this level. All right. Gu Fei nodded. He also wanted to see what these experts who came out of the forbidden zone for life had up their sleeves. Could Qiu Wuqing be stronger than Azure Dragon? Boom! At this moment, a shocking battle intent exploded from Qiu Wuqing's body. He no longer used a secret treasure to hide his aura, and a saint's aura spread out. Indeed, Gu Fei was surprised. This Qiu Wuqing was indeed powerful. It was hard for him to judge whether he was at the peak of the sage-to-be or sage-to-be. Those who came out of the God-fallen sea are indeed different. On a mountain a few hundred miles away, He Tian, Gu Zhong, and the old dragon were watching. Heng Xiong and the others were nowhere to be seen. Gu Zhong was called out by He Tian. He did not know where Heng Xiong and the others were placed by Gu Zhong. It was difficult for Heng Xiong and the others to come and watch a battle of this level. Even He Tian and the others had to be extremely cautious to avoid being affected by the battle. Swoosh! At this moment, someone arrived. Long Badeo and Gong Sunwang arrived at the mountain where He Tian and the others were. He Tian and the others ignored them and stared at the two figures on the mountain in front of them. Rumble! The heavens and earth shook as the two powerful auras clashed. This, apart from He Tian and the others, Long Badeo and Gong Sunwang were also shocked. The cultivation and strength of the two people in front of them were far beyond ordinary people. The human martial body is really strong. Long Badeo's eyes flashed with divine light. The God-fiend body isn't weak either, Gong Sunwang said. Qiu Wuqing was the first person to walk out from the depths of the fallen God Sea. His cultivation and strength were definitely at the peak of the human realm. In particular, Qiu Wuqing had the godly demon bloodline and the godly demon body. In the distant past, it was one of the strongest body constitutions in the world. Most of the powerful constitutions that appeared in the ancient times were born with them. Only a few cultivation techniques could cultivate a powerful body, and the path of martial arts was one of them. The Buddhists also had the indestructible Vajra body, and the demons had the chaotic demon body. The battle between the two powerful constitutions was rare even in the human realm. Long Badeo was someone who aspired to become a sage, so he really wanted to know the strength of these two people. Just as Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing were confronting each other, a figure appeared silently in the distant sky thousands of miles away. It was an old Taoist in a Taoist robe. At this moment, the aura of Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing was still rising. It was like two sages confronting each other. The powerful aura shocked all directions. Even though they were hundreds of miles away, He Tian and the others still felt an extremely strong pressure. All the living creatures in the whole area trembled in fear under the pressure of these two forces. It was as if doomsday had come. In the depths of the mountain, there was only silence, and no living creature dared to make a sound. "Fight!" Qiu Wuqing shouted loudly. A black halberd rushed out from his body and he grabbed it. Then, he directly flew up from the top of the mountain. Boom! The mountain beneath his feet exploded the moment he soared into the air. Swoosh! In an instant, Qiu Wuqing held the halberd and smashed it down on Gu Fei's head. The powerful, mysterious force shook the void and tore the heaven and earth apart. Humph! Gu Fei punched upwards with his right fist and directly used his body to meet the opponent's black halberd. Boom! Gu Fei's punch landed squarely on the halberd that was smashing down. There was a muffled sound and countless spatial ripples that could be seen with the naked eye spread out with the point of impact as the center. Buzz! The void shook and everything within a dozen miles was destroyed and turned into powder. The spatial ripples were so terrifying that even a layer of the ground below was shaved off. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. These two people were too powerful. They were far more powerful than ordinary half-sages and had the demeanor of being invincible among those of the same level. Roar! Qiu Wuqing shouted loudly and the heavens and earth shook. A powerful divine demon power erupted from his body and the halberd in his hand was intertwined with the divine demon power, displaying a terrifying power. The halberd pressed Gu Fei down thousands of feet, and almost shook Gu Fei down from the sky. All right. Two beams of divine light shot out from Gu Fei's eyes. His right fist that was on the halberd vibrated with a powerful martial arts force and stopped the downward momentum. Bang! The two forces collided again, and the two figures separated at lightning speed. Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing stopped and did not attack. They were both looking at each other. The few attacks just now were extremely fast. The two of them were evenly matched, and neither could suppress the other. Of course, this was just a test attack. Buzz! At this moment, the black halberd in Qiu Wuqing's hand vibrated and countless divine demon Dao patterns appeared on the halberd. Within the halberd, an extremely powerful force was awakening. This halberd was not a sacred weapon but a divine demon weapon that Qiu Wuqing had refined himself. Qiu Wuqing had branded his own Dao patterns on the halberd and it was like a part of his body, allowing him to use it with ease. The compatibility between a self-refined divine weapon and the user was incomparable to any other divine weapon. Only a self-refined divine weapon could the owner of the divine weapon unleash the maximum power of the divine weapon. I'll just play with you. With a flip of Gu Fei's right hand, a black divine sword appeared in his hand. A cold ripple of sword chi spread from the sword. This black sword was a divine weapon that Gu Fei had refined himself, the 9 Heaven Stars sword. The divine sword was branded with 9 martial Dao mantras and there was a trace of Dao rhythm lingering around it. A divine sword refined from the 9 Heaven Stars iron. Chapter 1820. Even in the 3 realms and 6 Daos, the 9 Heaven Stars iron was definitely a rare immortal divine material. It was a divine material exclusive to ancient supremes. Only ancient supremes could refine this immortal divine material into a divine weapon. Long Bideo and the rest would never have imagined that Gu Fei actually had a divine sword refined from the 9 Heaven Stars iron. This divine sword was obviously not an extreme divine weapon. This is a divine weapon that he refined himself, Gong Sunwang said with extreme shock. The divinity of the 9 Heaven Stars iron could not be concealed. There seemed to be spots of starlight flickering inside the black divine sword. Within the divine sword, there seemed to be an endless starry sky. Under his refinement, the 9 heaven stars iron in Gu Fei's hand had already transformed into a semi-sage weapon. The 9 martial incantations imprinted on the divine sword were faintly discernible. Fight! Qiu Wuqing directly charged over with the huge halberd in his hand. The black halberd was like a supreme weapon in the hands of the Grim Reaper. It emitted a strange power that could disturb one's mind. This power seemed to be able to extract one's soul from one's body. Divinity and demonic coexist. This race is incredible. Gu Fei felt great pressure. The divine demon race was extremely powerful in ancient times. The day was the god, and the night was the demon. The power of the gods and demons intertwined, and their combat power was endless. This was one of the most powerful races in ancient times. Clang! Gu Fei went up to meet it. The 9 heaven stars sword in his hand collided with the opponent's huge halberd. Dazzling sparks burst out, and a strong light streaked across the dark void, instantly illuminating the heaven and earth. The two figures quickly separated, and then collided again. Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing moved quickly in the void. The divine weapons in their hands collided continuously, and the clanging sound spread out for thousands of miles. Every time they collided, there would be a strong flash of light, illuminating the heaven and earth. This person is powerful. He can actually fight with your master. On the top of a mountain hundreds of miles away, He Tian's eyes were intertwined with Yin and Yang divine light. He was using the Yin Yang divine eye to watch the battle, because it allowed him to see the details that others could not. The god fiend body is really powerful. Long Badeo's voice resounded. Qiu Wuqing's performance had exceeded his expectations. Qiu Wuqing was much stronger than he had imagined. He had indeed underestimated the lineage of the fallen god Sea. The extraterrestrial divine mountain was transcendent. Every generation that came out of it was extremely powerful, and qualified to fight for the opportunity to become a saint. Long Badeo indeed had the right to be arrogant, but when he saw the cultivation and battle prowess displayed by Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing, he couldn't help but be moved. The competition in this world is very intense. Under the heavenly Tao, there could only be one sage. As long as someone became a sage, others who wanted to become a sage would have to wait for a very long time. Only after the heavenly Tao recovered would they be able to attack the sage realm again. Therefore, no one was willing to see others become saints. However, the heavenly tribulation to break through to the sage realm had yet to appear in the human realm. Everyone who was interested in becoming a sage was preparing for it. Now was not the time. The heavenly Tao was not yet complete. What god-fiend physique? The martial physique is the strongest. Gu Zhong was somewhat disdainful. He was very confident in his master's battle prowess because the martial physique was also one of the strongest physiques in the world. Moreover, it was cultivated. Clang! The battle continued. In just a few breaths' time, the two divine weapons had collided thousands of times. The powerful impact made Qiu Wuqing's hands a little numb. The opponent's strength made Qiu Wuqing's battle intent boil. He had always pursued the strongest power. Meeting such an opponent would only make him more excited. Be careful. The god-fiend power in Qiu Wuqing's body was vast and mighty. Divine and demonic patterns appeared and intertwined on his body. His power was still increasing, as if there was no end to it. Buzz! The halberd in his hand was vibrating. The Tao patterns that were imprinted in the halberd were all awakened. This was a power so powerful that even Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved. Swoosh! With just a light wave, a large area of the void collapsed. The halberd became even more terrifying. It actually almost smashed Gu Fei's 9 heaven stars sword away. Gu Fei was forced to retreat again. This was the second time. There had never been anyone who could force him to retreat twice in a row. This was unprecedented. Martial artists were invincible in the same rank. An ordinary half-sage who met Gu Fei was like a child meeting an adult. How could a child defeat an adult? However, the situation was different now. The god-fiend body was really powerful. Qiu Wuqing could completely control the divine and demonic powers in his body. The intertwining of the two powers could give him almost endless combat power. The power of the halberd in Qiu Wuqing's hand increased by almost 3 times in an instant. If it was someone else, the divine weapon in his hand would probably be sent flying with a sweep of the halberd. However, it was a pity that Qiu Wuqing met Gu Fei. The power of the martial body was displayed at this moment. Not only did the 9 heaven star sword in Gu Fei's hand not fly out, but it also exploded with the divine light. Buzz! The divine sword vibrated and the 9 martial mantras inside the divine sword lit up. The sage Taoist rhymes surrounded it. At this moment, the divine weapon seemed to have turned into a sacred weapon. The most intense collision occurred. The power of the divine weapons in the hands of the 2 experts were fully activated. Qiu Wuqing could no longer force Gu Fei to retreat. The halberd and the divine sword collided continuously. A large area of the void was annihilated. The 2 experts even fought into the broken void and into the chaos. The human race martial body has become strong. Thousands of miles up in the sky, the old man sighed. The combat power displayed by Gu Fei moved him. This was a powerful opponent. With such a war god on the road to becoming a saint, it would be very difficult for others to surpass him. The road to becoming a saint in this life was likely to be filled with blood. Rumble. Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing directly broke through the void and rushed out of the chaos. At this point in the battle, they still had not used their trump cards. Both of their hands were dripping with blood as they held on to their divine weapons. The powerful impact had caused their palms to split open and bloody wounds to appear on their palms. At this moment, many figures appeared in this area. Some powerful existences had finally arrived. The battle between Gu Fei and Qiu Wuqing had caused a huge impact. Even cultivators thousands of miles away could sense it. Powerful cultivators were very sensitive to the fluctuations of the qi of heaven and earth. They could sense the changes in this part of the world. More and more people rushed over. This caused the 2 who were in the middle of the battle to frown. Among these people, there were even enemies of Gu Fei. Under such circumstances, Gu Fei had to be careful and guard against sneak attacks from the enemies in the dark. Roar. Gu Fei wanted to end the battle as soon as possible and no longer held anything back. With a furious roar, a heaven-shaking power erupted from his body, causing the entire world to tremble under the might of this power. What? The end of the battle was within everyone's expectations, but it could also be said that it was unexpected. He Tian and the others did not expect that Qiu Wuqing could actually force Gu Fei to use the secret technique of ascension. The others also had a deeper understanding of Gu Fei. The human race martial body had already matured, and had truly risen to become a peerless expert in the human world. No force dared to look down on the human race martial body anymore. Even Long Bideo, who came from the extraterrestrial divine mountain, was silent at this time. The human race martial body was too strong, and even the number 1 person in the divine sea had been defeated by him. No one could not be moved by such a battle record. Gu Fei, He Tian, and the others left the mountain range. They were going to Dragon Emperor City to pick up Heng Xiong and the others, and then leave Dragon Emperor City. Since he had already taken in Heng Xiong and the others, Gu Fei had an idea in his mind. He wanted to build a force that could compete with the forces of the ancient antiquity. Moreover, in the depths of his heart, he still wanted to rebuild the Taishan sect, but it seemed impossible now, because he still had no news of the disciples of the Taishan sect. However, just as they were about to enter Dragon Emperor City, Long Bideo caught up with them. "Brother Gu, please wait." Long Bideo stopped Gu Fei and the others. "Brother Long, what can I do for you?" Gu Fei cupped his hands and said to Long Bideo. Long Bideo hid his aura very well. He had been hiding his aura with a secret treasure, so that others could not see through him. People who came out of the forbidden area were all very mysterious. Gu Fei was not willing to contact these people. "Haha, I don't dare to teach you anything. I just want to invite you to a place with me," Long Bideo said. "What place?" Hearing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but frown. "It's like this. When a senior of my extraterrestrial divine mountain was traveling in the human realm, he obtained an ancient map. The ancient map recorded the location of an ancient sage's cave mansion. Long Bideo said such words. What? The cave mansion of the sage Gu Fei? Gu Fei and the others couldn't help but be moved. They had never seen the cave mansion of an ancient sage. This is a complete cave mansion. The senior of my extraterrestrial divine mountain once went there and almost died. Long Bideo continued. The cave mansion of the sage Gu Fei is not an ordinary place. He Tian pondered. Even the people of the extraterrestrial divine mountain almost died there. The cave mansion must be protected by a powerful formation, and it just so happened that he was a formation master. He Tian was a little moved. Others couldn't enter the cave mansion, but it didn't mean that he couldn't. Master, you see. Gu Zhong looked at Gu Fei. Gu Zhong looked at Gu Fei. He also wanted to go and take a look. One must know that it was a complete cave dwelling left behind by an ancient sage. How many such places could there be in the world? Well, there's no harm in seeing it. Gu Fei nodded and accepted Long Bideo's invitation. Very well, we will leave in 10 days. Long Bideo was very happy. Gu Fei's battle prowess was obvious to all. With his participation, the chances of successfully opening this ancient sage's abode had increased by a few points. Why 10 days? He Tian asked. Haha, these 10 days are for Chiao Wuqing to heal. I have already made an appointment with Chiao Wuqing. Long Bideo explained the reason. Chiao Wuqing was defeated by Gu Fei and he needed 10 days to recuperate. 10 days and he will recover. He Tian and Gu Zhong glanced at each other, and they were both extremely shocked. After all, Chiao Wuqing was injured by Gu Fei, yet he only needed 10 days to recover. This Chiao Wuqing was really extraordinary. Godly demon body. Interesting. A light flashed in Gu Fei's eyes. Chiao Wuqing was injured by him. He knew very well that if it was an ordinary half-sage, it would be impossible to fully recover without a year or two of recuperation. However, Chiao Wuqing only needed 10 days to recover. Godly demon body was really powerful. No wonder it was one of the most powerful physiques in ancient times. Even compared to human martial body, it was not much weaker. Okay. Gu Fei nodded. Then, he led Gu Zhong and He Tian into Dragon Emperor City. At this moment, the result of the duel between Gu Fei and Chiao Wuqing had long been spread across Dragon Emperor City. Human martial body defeated godly demon body, which shocked all the powerhouses in Dragon Emperor City. Even the most powerful one in Deity's Ocean couldn't defeat Gu Fei. Gu Fei was really unrivaled among his peers. When all the cultivators in the city were talking about this event, Long Bideo was secretly making an appointment with those powerhouses in the city. By contrast, Gu Fei and the others were enjoying a rare tranquility. 10 days soon passed. That ancient sage's cave mansion seemed to be very attractive to those powerhouses in Dragon Emperor City. Chapter 1822. The fact that Gu Fei had defeated the god-demon physique shocked everyone. Even some experts of the older generation were afraid of him. In the cultivation world, the strong were respected. Even some experts of the older generation might not be able to defeat Gu Fei. He was almost invincible among the half-sages. However, many people had various means that could instantly increase their cultivation and battle strength. Chiao Wuqing still had a trump card that he didn't use in the battle with Gu Fei. Those who had walked out of the forbidden land of life all had something to rely on. The power of such an inheritance was unfathomable. 10 days was not a short period of time. Gu Fei and the others lived in a courtyard provided by Zhongli Meng. Zhongli Meng could make friends with Gu Fei. She knew that with Gu Fei's cultivation and battle strength, his name would definitely be on the path to becoming a sage. In this generation, there would be a once-in-a-lifetime golden momentum. The fight on the path to becoming a sage would definitely be unprecedentedly fierce. This was destined to be a path built of blood and bones. Since the late prehistoric era, becoming a sage had become the lifelong goal of all living beings in the 3 realms and 6 paths. As long as there was a glimmer of hope to become a sage, no one would be willing to give it up. This was because as long as one became a sage, the great Tao of heaven and earth would be under the feet of the sage. They would be invincible in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Unless an extreme Tao Supreme was born, there would only be one person in the world, sage. Humph, that guy Long Bideo has been jumping around like a flea these days. He seems to have a date with many people. He Tian was back. He was not a person who could stay calm. If he didn't find something to do, his hands would be itchy. These days, some precious treasures were stolen from Dragon Emperor City from time to time. Without asking, Gu Fei and the others knew that it was He Tian's doing. Moreover, when this guy went crazy, he didn't even recognize his own family. Even a magical herb that was preserved by the Zhongli clan was stolen by this guy, causing chaos in the Zhongli clan for a few days. In the end, it was Zhongli Meng who came to the courtyard and complained to Gu Fei, asking for the divine herb back. Uncle Master He, if you want a magical herb, you can ask my master. It's just a magical herb. My master has a lot of it, Gu Zhong said. Hee, my hands were itchy. He Tian blushed and felt a bit embarrassed. The Zhongli clan's divine herb wasn't some peerless divine herb, but it was only 7,000 to 8,000 years old. It wasn't a young herb king. However, this stock of godly medicine had been cultivated by the Zhongli family for thousands of years. If they really couldn't find it, the ancestor of the Zhongli family who cultivated the godly medicine would probably vomit blood. If they couldn't find it, the old ancestor of the Zhongli clan would vomit blood. Gu Fei couldn't help but shake his head. He had a lot of divine herbs, and those few divine springs of life were surrounded by divine herbs. There were young herb kings, great herb kings, and even immortal herb. If there was anyone in this world who had the least amount of divine medicine, it would definitely be Gu Fei. Master, we're really going to explore that sage abode, Gu Zhong said. Not only did Long Bideo invite them, but he also invited others. What was he doing? Didn't he know that there were too many monks and not enough gruel? Normally, if someone found the abode, they wouldn't let everyone know about it. Of course, they wouldn't let others know about it and go search for treasures themselves. Unless the formation of the abode was so powerful that even people from beyond Heaven Divine Mountain couldn't break it, then Long Bideo would come out and invite others to break the formation. We'll act according to the situation, Gu Fei said. They had gone through all kinds of places, including the immortal divine city left behind by a sovereign. How could they not go through a mere sage abode? He Tian and Gu Zhong nodded. Although Gu Fei had said it lightly, it was still the cave dwelling of an ancient sage after all. It was extraordinary. If they were not careful, they might lose their lives there. Get ready, we'll meet up with Long Bideo in a few hours. Gu Fei looked at the sky and said, Yes. Gu Zhong and old Jiao retreated, but Erebus did not leave. He took out a bottle of bejeweled nectar and drank it by himself. You really know how to enjoy yourself. Gu Fei couldn't help but shake his head. Boss, no matter how I think about it, something doesn't seem right. Perhaps this Long Bideo is really plotting something. He Tian was a little uneasy. Long Bideo's actions were too unusual. No one knew what his purpose was, but He Tian's perception of unknown danger was still somewhat accurate. Who cares what he's up to? It's useless against me. Gu Fei was very confident. Although he couldn't see through Long Bideo, he couldn't be stronger than the number 1 person who came out of the God-fallen sea. After chatting for a while, Gu Fei also turned around and went back to his room. Sky beyond heaven. In the courtyard, Erebus was left alone, pouring himself a cup of wine. Evening came, and the sunset glow was like blood. A few blood-colored clouds floated in the sky. A flock of returning birds flew south and disappeared into the horizon. It's time. In the room in the courtyard, Gu Fei, who was sitting on a futon, opened his eyes. At this time, Zhong Limeng also came to the courtyard. In fact, the moment Zhong Limeng stepped into the courtyard, Gu Fei knew that she had come. At this time, Gu Zhong, old Jiao, and He Tian all came out and came to the door of Gu Fei's room, quietly waiting outside. Gu Fei was not in a hurry. Chapter 1823. It's really him. When Gu Fei and his group arrived, everyone was taken aback. Long Bideo really invited this person. He was a ruthless character. No wonder Long Bideo said that with this person, the chances of successfully breaking through the great formation of the ancient sages would increase by 50%. Gu Fei's battle prowess was obvious to all. Even Azure Dragon and Qiu Wuqing were no match for him. It could be said that he was invincible among those of the same cultivation level. Among those of the same generation, there was almost no one who was a match for him. Let's go. When Gu Fei arrived, Long Bideo directly activated the formation platform. Everyone boarded the formation platform and then disappeared in a flash of divine light. Using the formation platform to teleport through the void, this method could avoid the tracking of some experts. Of course, there was still a risk, because if it was in existence like Ghost Emperor Fengdu, even if he used the formation platform, he still wouldn't be able to escape the tracking of such experts. These people are very careful. After Gu Fei and his group disappeared, a few figures appeared on the top of the mountain. When these people arrived, the entire formation platform's spiritual qi completely disappeared. After the spiritual qi completely disappeared, the formation platform began to crack and then turned into a pile of dust. However, most formation platforms were refined from spirit stones or jade stones that contained spiritual qi. After the spiritual qi in these spirit stones and jade stones was exhausted, they would turn into dust. The formation platform collapsed and turned into dust, leaving nothing behind. On the top of the mountain, the few figures surrounded the pile of dust and looked at it for a while before leaving. The formation platform no longer existed, so they couldn't track Gu Fei, Long Bideo, and the others. Where is this? In just a few breaths of time, Gu Fei and the others arrived at a desolate place. Beneath their feet was an array platform, which did not crumble into dust after they arrived. Everywhere they looked, there was a kind of red sand. On the ground, on the hills, there was no living thing, not even a blade of grass. This is... Even Gu Fei frowned. With his eyesight, he couldn't see any signs of life, nor could he sense a trace of life. This? How is this possible? When they lifted their heads to look at the sky, they saw a massive life star above their heads. It was so massive that it could shake people's souls. That is the Tenglong continent. It can also become the Tenglong star, Long Bideo said. This life star was so big that even Gu Fei and He Tian's realms were shocked to the extreme. We actually left the Tenglong continent. Someone screamed in fear. It was too amazing. After several breaths, they had left that massive life star. The place they were currently in was a barren planet in the starry sky. There was no life here, and all they could see were red sand, stones, or hills. Of course, there were no mountain ridges here. The terrain was simple and monotonous, consisting of sand, rocks, and hills. The ancient sage's abode is on this planet. Someone voiced out the doubt in his heart. How could the cave of an ancient sage be in this barren land? This seemed a little unusual. The place where the cave abode of the ancient sages was located should be a paradise at the very least. Such a distance. What moved Gu Fei was that in just a few breaths, they had actually arrived on a planet that was very far away from the Tenglong star. People who came from the extraterrestrial divine mountain were indeed capable. Even a cultivator like Gu Fei, who had the fastest speed in the world, would take a lot of time to fly back to the life star above their heads. After some people recognized where they were, they couldn't help but change their expressions. Brother Long, you are going too far. Someone was unhappy. They had never thought that the cave abode of an ancient sage was not on the Tenglong continent, but on a barren planet. Hee, I never said that the cave abode of an ancient sage was on the Tenglong continent, Long Bideo said. Since we are here, let's go and explore the cave abode, Gu Fei said. They only had one purpose in coming here, and that was the cave abode of the sage. It was the cave abode that attracted these people here. Yes. Qiu Wuqing, who had been silent all this while, also nodded. When the crowd heard this, they did not say anything. Since they were already here, it seemed unreasonable not to go and explore the cave abode of the ancient sage. Boom! At this moment, a muffled sound suddenly came from afar. Everyone felt the ground under their feet shake. What's going on? Just when everyone was in doubt, Gu Fei and the others had already soared into the sky and rushed in the direction of the sound. When everyone saw this, they suddenly came to their senses. They quickly soared into the sky and chased in the direction where Gu Fei and the others disappeared. Rumble! The ground shook. Waves of air shot up into the sky from the ground in front of them, forming red pillars of air. Each pillar of air was thousands of feet high. A strong wave came from the depths of the ground. So it is like this, Gu Fei muttered to himself. This vast planet was not as peaceful as it seemed on the surface. Under the ground, there were powerful beings fighting each other. Boom! At this moment, the ground in front of them suddenly caved in. Then, a huge creature broke out of the ground. A powerful and dangerous aura spread out from the creature's body. A big scorpion! Everyone was shocked. The creature that came out from the ground was actually a black scorpion that was as big as a mountain. Bang! In another place, a huge red snake rushed out. Powerful waves of energy spread out in all directions. This was a terrifying and incomparably powerful beast. The battle between the scorpion and the red snake was earth-shattering. Gu Fei and the others didn't make a move. They were extremely shocked. The cultivation and battle prowess of these two ominous beasts were at the half-step saint realm. No one could have imagined that such level of ominous beasts would exist on a barren planet. The half-step saint beasts were incomparably powerful. The black scorpion and the red snake were fighting. The entire area was collapsing, the void was shaking, and the power of destruction swept out in all directions. The arrival of everyone also alarmed the two half-step saint beasts that were fighting. The arrival of more than a dozen powerful existences was enough to deter a half-step saint ferocious beast when their powerful aura converged. The two half-step saint beasts stopped. Kill! Chapter 1824. On the surface, there seemed to be no life on the Red Star. However, there were powerful beasts of the half-saint level fighting here. Gu Fei and the others had set foot on this star in search of the ancient sage's cave abode. A black scorpion that was as large as a mountain was fighting with a giant red snake. Both beasts were powerful existences of the half-saint level. The tragic aura that they exuded shook the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Qiu Wuqing made his move. Swoosh! A black light flashed, and the mountain-like scorpion was split into two halves. Stinking black blood rained down from the sky like a rain of black blood. This? Everyone was shocked. Qiu Wuqing's combat strength was indeed amazing. That was a half-saint level beast, but it was split in half just like that. Buzz! The black halberd vibrated. Even the primordial spirit of the black scorpion was shattered. It was completely destroyed. Boom! At this moment, the giant red snake that was fighting with the black scorpion rushed down from the sky. It broke through the ground and tried to escape. Humph! Qiu Wuqing only needed to make his move. At this moment, a divine arrow shot past Qiu Wuqing's side and hit the huge red snake directly. The huge red snake immediately hissed, and its entire body was enveloped by a divine fire. The divine fire burned from within the red divine body. There were Tao patterns flashing in the fire. This was a type of Tao fire. It was very terrifying and could burn the soul and body of living creatures. Even a half-saint level beast would be destroyed if it was burned by this Tao fire. Soon, the red snake was burned to ashes by the Tao fire. The person who attacked was a masked woman. She held a divine bow in her hand. The divine bow was surrounded by Tao fire, giving off a scorching feeling. An expert of the Vermilion Bird clan. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect this woman to have such combat strength. She could easily kill a powerful half-saint level beast. The intelligence of a half-saint level beast was no less than that of a human, especially a powerful beast that had lived for countless years. The people invited by Long Badeo were all extraordinary. Gu Fei and He Tian looked at each other. They could feel a wave of pressure from the woman with the divine bow. She was a powerful opponent. Other than Long Badeo, no one knew the origin of this woman. All right, let's continue our journey. Long Ba Dao knew where the ancient sage's abode was. He led the crowd to walk forward. The Scarlet Star was very big. It seemed to be no smaller than any region in the Tanglong continent. Of course, compared to the soaring Dragon Star, this great Scarlet Star was nothing. It was not even 100,000th of the soaring Dragon Star. Who knew how many such stars there were in the vast sea of stars? No one would have thought that there would be a cave abode left behind by an ancient sage on the vast red planet that could often be seen in the starry sky. After they walked for a few thousand miles, waves of terrifying fluctuations came from the front. Very soon, everyone saw a scene that made their hair stand on end. The ground in front of them was densely packed with fist-sized horned ants. These horned ants looked like they were made of metal, and there was a black light flowing on their surface. What are these things? Everyone was shocked to the extreme. This group of horned ants had gathered into a black torrent and rushed forward. Everywhere it passed, the red earth was covered by the black horned ants. A single horned ant wasn't scary, but a large group of them, with no end in sight, was frightening. Countless horned ants gathered together to form a terrifying aura. Even a half-saint-level existence could not help but palpitate. This was the so-called ants can kill an elephant. What is that? He Tian's eyes were sharp. He suddenly saw a small black dot above the horned ants. These black dots were moving very fast and arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. What? Everyone was shocked. These black dots were actually horned ants that could fly. These horned ants were different from the ones on the ground. They had golden stripes on their bodies. Could it be that these horned ants are the extinct black and gold ants? The masked woman's voice rang out. Black and gold ants. Everyone's expressions changed. This kind of ant was a terrifying species that had appeared in the desolate era. They specialized in eating metal, so they were also called metal-eating ants. This kind of black and gold ant's body was very strong. Ordinary divine weapons couldn't even cut through it. However, they also had a weakness. They were afraid of divine flames. Fire could subdue metal, and this was the black and gold ant's fatal weakness. Everyone turned to look at that mysterious woman. This woman was a flame cultivator. Her divine flames had most likely been cultivated to the point of perfection. Furthermore, she had a divine bow that could shoot divine fire arrows. Swish! Just as everyone was hesitating, those black and gold ants that could fly already flew towards them, covering the sky and covering the earth. They were densely packed, leaving everyone stupefied. Boom! The masked woman made her move. With a wave of her hand, divine flames shot out from her hand, sweeping out in all directions, incinerating the flying black and gold ants into ashes. Squeak, squeak! Countless black and gold ants were burned by the divine flames, emitting strange noises. They fell from the sky and turned into ashes, dissipating into the air. The 5 elements reinforced and restrained each other. The black and gold ants had devoured metal essence, giving them a powerful body that not even divine weapons could injure. However, they were afraid of divine flames. The masked woman shot out divine flames, and very quickly, a large number of black and gold ants were burned to death. The remaining black and gold ants sensed danger and fled in all directions. There seems to be an ant queen among these black and gold ants. He Tian couldn't help but be moved when he saw this. After devouring metal essence, the black and gold ants could transform into incomparably powerful ant queens after countless years of transformation. The ant queen was different from ordinary black and gold ants. It had already gained intelligence and knew how to cultivate. Its strength was no weaker than the 2 half-step saints from before. An ant queen! Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Ordinary black and gold ants were nothing, but an ant queen was something that everyone was afraid of. One must know that an ant queen had the combat strength of a half-step saint at the very least. Moreover, this ant queen could control countless black and gold ants. Brother Long, what is this place? Why does such an ancient creature exist here? Someone asked Long Bedeo. This red planet was not simple at all. Even extinct ancient creatures had appeared here. It was hard for them to imagine what was waiting for them ahead. Brother Hong, if it was so easy to enter the ancient sage's cave, it would have been emptied by that ancestor of my clan long ago. Would it still be our turn? Chapter 1825. It was not easy to barge into the cave of an ancient sage. There would definitely be a formation set up by the sage in the vicinity of the sage's cave to protect it. Just as Long Bedeo had said, it was not so easy to enter the abode of an ancient sage. The black and gold ants retreated. The mysterious woman's divine fire was very powerful. It had already transformed into flames of the way, and it was the bane of the black and gold ants. Although there were many of them, they could not withstand the burning of the divine fire. There were so many black and gold ants on this vast planet. This made everyone a little excited. There must be a lot of refined gold underground. It should be known that the black and gold ants fed on refined gold. Whoosh! He Tian's figure disappeared. Very quickly he reappeared. This time, he was holding a piece of metal with alternating black and gold stripes on it. This is... Everyone could sense the spirit chi ripples on this piece of black iron gold. This was a rare divine material, and a flying sword refined from this kind of divine metal would be incomparably sharp. It was a refining material at the almighty level. He Tian had only disappeared for a short while, yet he had already obtained a piece of black iron god gold. This caused the others to be extremely envious. In the depths of this scarlet planet, there was most likely a huge vein of black iron god gold. If this news got out, all the cultivation forces on the soaring dragon planet would definitely flock to this place. This is for you. He Tian gave the piece of black iron gold, which was the size of a human head, to Zhongli Meng, who was beside him. You're really giving it to me? Zhongli Meng was both surprised and happy. She had broken through to the almighty level not long ago, and she needed a piece of divine metal to refine her life divine weapon. Refining a life divine weapon could not be done casually. Zhongli Meng was not the most outstanding person in the Zhongli family, so she had not received the full support of the family. No. Yes. Zhongli Meng hurriedly took the piece of black iron gold. This was a very rare refining material, and its value was definitely not lower than a young king medicine. How could she not want it? Furthermore, Zhongli Meng did not intend to sell this black iron godly metal, she wanted to use it for herself. Compared to other major powers, the Zhongli clan's cultivation resources weren't abundant. Thus, the clan's cultivation resources were all provided to the few most outstanding individuals in the clan. Although Zhongli Meng appeared to be very impressive, she was actually lacking in cultivation resources. A piece of divine black gold metal was nothing to He Tian. It was just a material for refining weapons at the mighty figure level. He was already a half-sage and had no use for such divine metal. In fact, this fellow also wanted to refine a half-sacred weapon of his own, but his standards were very high, and ordinary divine materials couldn't catch his eye. In fact, he had long since set his eyes on the immortal divine materials in Gu Fei's hands. Some people were envious that He Tian had obtained such a large piece of godly black gold metal. They also used great techniques to break open the ground and go deep underground, wanting to collect the godly black gold metal. However, that person quickly escaped. There were many divine materials in the depths of the scarlet earth, but there were endless black and gold ants below. Even an incomparably powerful cultivator would find it difficult to deal with so many black and gold ants underground. The reason these black and gold ants had appeared here was very likely because their nest was nearby. The legendary Ant Queen made these cultivators even more fearful. Let's go, staying here is purely a waste of time, someone said. Other than Gu Fei's group, Long Bedeo had also invited 12 other experts. Among these experts, some were unfathomable because they had used secret treasures to conceal their auras. Some did not have secret treasures, so their cultivation and strength were not a secret. It could be said that none of the people invited by Long Bedeo were weak. They were all overlord-level existences. With such a group of people gathered together, there was nowhere in the world that they couldn't go. Everyone continued forward. How could the allure of the divine black gold metal compare to that of the ancient sage's cave abode? However, the journey was not peaceful. This scarlet planet was not simple. There seemed to be some kind of power obscuring the aura of this planet. Could it be? Heition felt that it was a bit unbelievable. If it was really as he had guessed, then the ancient sage's power was frighteningly great. What is that? On the Scarlet Planet, the area was incomparably vast. Gu Fei's group had traveled for tens of thousands of miles, but they still had not reached the end. At this time, a huge black stone tablet suddenly appeared in front of them. Everyone, be careful. Past this stone tablet is the range of the ancient sage's great formation. An ancestor of extraterrestrial divine mountain had once broken into this ancient sage's cave abode. Long Badeo naturally knew some of the truth about this cave abode. Finally here. Some people were excited, but others were also uneasy. The ancient sage's cave abode was not that easy to break into. Everyone approached the black stone tablet, and saw that it was thousands of feet high. It stood on the ground like an insurmountable mountain, blocking everyone's path. There are words on the stone tablet, someone exclaimed. Just as that person was exclaiming, he suddenly seemed to be hit by something. He shouted and almost fell from the sky. What's wrong? Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Don't look at that word. Gu Fei's voice rang out. Although his voice wasn't very loud, it was clearly transmitted into everyone's heart. It was like a sudden blow to their heads, waking them up with a start. So close. Zhong Li Meng's face paled. She couldn't help but look at the word on the stone tablet. However, with just a single glance, her soul was almost pulled out of her body by a strange force and was swallowed by the word on the stone tablet. Good move. Gu Fei soared into the sky and arrived in front of the ancient word on the stone tablet. The martial true power in his body was vast and mighty, and rays of chi aura revolved around his body. Everyone was incomparably shocked. Gu Fei's chi was too strong. It was as if he was an invincible war god from the ancient times. Among everyone present, only he dared to stare at the ancient word on the stone tablet. Boom! Gu Fei's divine sense felt a violent tremor. Then, a hazy world appeared in front of him. This was the world inside the ancient word on the stone tablet. His spiritual will entered such a space. Kill. All of a sudden, an earth-shattering roar resounded in this hazy world. Then, Gu Fei realized that in front of him, there were countless silhouettes. Every single one of these silhouettes was incomparably powerful. They formed into a torrent that rushed towards him. What? Gu Fei didn't expect to encounter such a terrifying killing intent. He couldn't help but be taken aback. The countless silhouettes that were rushing towards him gathered together, forming an extremely terrifying killing intent. If it was anyone else, they would have been scared silly.